6 seconds to go. Mordecai going to step up. One last play. Throw to the end zone. Into the end zone. Knocked around and caught. It is caught. Reggie Robertson with the deflection and the touchdown. Are you kidding me? SMU on the final play of the game. 5th touchdown pass for Tanner Mordecai. Heavens.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Play action to R.J. Sneed with the first down across the 50. Back inside, up the sideline, R.J. Sneed. Go Baylor, go! Sneed in for 6.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
That's not a call, Jim. Make it.
I'll say yes.
All right, let's see it. For the win. Zerline's kick. Is it long enough? It is into the net for the victory.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Final minute, first quarter. Bryce Young rotates the ball in his hands, gets it out to Brian Robinson. A move and a touchdown, Alabama.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on this Monday afternoon where college football is right now kind of figuring out, like, wait a minute, who is everybody? I mean, even the unbeatable had to fight, scratch, and claw at the end after they had what is a comfortable lead against Florida, but that is a tough environment. What about the Pac-12's weekend? Not good. Brigham Young's trying to win like every conference in America with their non-conference schedule, and Baylor is now in position for a game that matters against Iowa State Saturday at home, along with West Virginia beats Virginia Tech. Oklahoma gets through their rivalry renewal with Nebraska. So there's a lot to get to, and we'll learn quite a bit about the Big 12 today, but also the national games, A&M at Arkansas, Wisconsin, Notre Dame, and even a group of 5 game of interest, Memphis and UT San Antonio, because of Memphis's win against Mississippi State. What were off the top of your head, on the chat room, on the text line, phone calls, 254-339-1122, top of your mind, 3 things that stand out from the college football weekend? A game, a moment, a situation, a topic, opinion. What are they? Let's go. We start. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak joins me, David Smoak. Jack McKenzie runs the mothership today.
I think the couple things that stand out to me is that the teams that we think are maybe the top 4 teams guaranteed to go to the playoff are more vulnerable than we thought at the beginning of the year. We knew that about Ohio State anyway. They still have problems on defense, even though they won big this week over Tulsa. Clemson's offense is abysmal, and Oklahoma let Nebraska hang around the whole game. And Alabama, while they jumped out on Florida, and this might be more of a credit to Florida than a knock on Alabama, I mean, Florida was in that game the whole time in the second half and was just a hair's breadth away from having a shot at it.
They were averaging 6 yards a carry on the ground. Alabama less than 4 yards a carry, and Florida was the one coming from behind and using the running game.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody but Alabama wins that game. I think anybody else in that situation in the swamp with those emotions probably craters. But, yeah, credit to Florida for the fight that they put up. Emory Jones, there's questions about, would it be Anthony Richardson or what was his status? But Emory Jones was the guy, and Florida played a hell of a game, put up a hell of a fight, and nothing to hang their heads about in the slightest. Of course, you'd rather have the win, but, it's Alabama. I mean, if that happens against just about anybody else, you're like, dang, but, you're still like, dang, but you also realize that's just what that team does, basically.
I'll also say this. If you're sitting around at the ACC offices today and going, what's that smell? It's you.
Yeah, well, who's worse right now? Who's having a worse start? Now, some of them have had better non-conference crossover games. Who right now is right now going? Other than Oregon winning, which was a huge win at Ohio State, the ACC and the Pac-12 are like, Now, the Big 12 doesn't have many good, what you would call big-time non-conference wins either. In fact, Texas lost to Arkansas in a game that really a lot of people didn't even know much to what to read. Oklahoma beat Nebraska, but as you said, it was a challenge. They were 3-touchdown favorites. And Kansas State beating Stanford is one of the best wins for right now. Iowa State lost to Iowa. Who's having a tougher start, though, the Pac-12 or the ACC to start this year?
I think it's probably it's tough. I mean,
I'm going to give you some stats.
Yeah,
okay?
I mean, I'm trying to go through it in my head. It's not like the ACC got wiped off the board. They did win some games this past weekend, but when you have Clemson struggling the way that they did and looking the way that they have so far, and that's your preeminent program, that's a little bit concerning. Whereas with the Pac-12, at least Oregon looks good. At least Oregon has that marquee win. Now, outside of Oregon, everything else seems to be a bit of a wild card. In the ACC, outside of Clemson, everything's a wild. I don't know who's in a worse spot right now. I'd say probably the ACC because Clemson looks a lot more beatable than Oregon does.
The Pac-12, this is from John Wilner, who we had on last week. 16 non-conference losses, 5 of them to the Mountain West. They had 4 losses. This was late in the morning on Saturday. 4 losses since 7 p.m. 3 losses to Brigham Young, 2 losses to FCS, 1 unbeaten team. And again, does Oregon beating Ohio State offset most of that? That gives you at least your bell cow if they continue to take care of business as well. SMU's Tanner Mordecai. What a start to the year for him. They win at a Hail Mary. We'll talk more about that and have the play and his reaction to it here momentarily. A couple weeks ago, he won the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award. Paul Catalina, I want to start with this, Jack. This is what college football is about. This is when you know your fan base is locked in, when a woman tweets this.
Yes.
Young women in Tallahassee, please stop having sex with the FSU football players. When they approach you, act like you don't know who they are. When they tell you they play at FSU, ask them if they play basketball. When they say football, say ew and walk away. I bet we see a change.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
Well, Smooch being her name is very, in line.
The major thing here is the athletic director and coach are not going to change anytime soon. At least not immediately. They need to hire a real athletic director. The one they have, and I'm not saying he's not a real athletic director. He got the job. He's a real athletic director. But he was brought in to help with the accounting of the athletic department. He has fixed that problem, but he had to hire a football coach in the middle. That was not his expertise. He had to fire and hire, not his expertise. So they need to have a legit athletic director who that was his mission in their mission in life. Since that's not going to happen soon, this is the best short-term plan. Don't do it, ladies.
Yes, don't do it, ladies, please. So that's one of the things.
Florida State is in just a massive mess right now. I mean, the dumpster's on fire, and they've tried extinguishers, and it's not working. I mean, it's one thing, to come out of the gates and play the way that they did against Notre Dame and give fans some hope, but then to turn around, lose to Jacksonville State in the manner that you did, okay, it's an awful loss, especially when it was entirely preventable, and you didn't call the right defense and get your guys straightened up before that last play against Jacksonville State. So, okay, you screwed up there. But you got your ass kicked by Wake Forest. There's no excuses for that one. So, close against Notre Dame, feels good, feels great. Okay, weird loss versus Jacksonville State that should never happen. But then to turn around and just get beat up by Wake Forest, that to me is red flag central. And it's just compounded and made worse by the fact that what happened with Willie Taggart happened. And, that brings then into a whole new crowd who are like, well, if this would have been Willie Taggart, he would have been out the door. So not only is it on the field bad, but then it creates friction off the field as well. And like Paul said, there's not a ton that they can really do about it. It's not like they can fire him right now. They don't have a lot of money to spend. So, yeah, FSU, man, bad start to the season.
Which is the biggest Big 12 game this weekend? Iowa State at Baylor, West Virginia at Oklahoma, West Virginia beating Virginia Tech to get off of that loss they had earlier, Texas Tech at Texas, Kansas State at Oklahoma State, and, SMU plays at TCU in a non-conference game. Which one's the biggest game?
That one to me is the biggest. I mean, West Virginia, Oklahoma is pretty close if West Virginia is getting better, but I think the SMU TCU game is pretty Pretty big one.
But they're neither one of them are ranked in the top 25.
Well,
that doesn't mean they
TCU
shouldn't be. TCU is right on the edge.
If they win this weekend, they will be.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. You have the highest ranked team, Oklahoma, hosting West Virginia. If you extend the poll, West Virginia's 40th. Baylor's 42nd. Kansas State's 33rd. Texas is 30th. So, but I think those are games that will kind of set the tone for who you might be over the next month of the season.
Well, to answer the question, I think you could make a case for every single one of those games. I think Iowa State Baylor is going to be really interesting, but I'd have to go K-State Oklahoma State just because somebody's taking their first loss, and they're both on the cusp of maybe being in the top 25. K-State loses Skylar Thompson and actually went out and looked really okay with Will Howard out there. So don't know if they can keep that up. We saw what happened last season as the play went along with Will Howard at the helm. It was not good. But, yeah, I guess since somebody will take their first loss, K-State, Oklahoma State, just because that'll create a little more separation.
All right, in the Big 12 plus, Brigham Young, Cincinnati, and Houston all took care of their business. Brigham Young has beaten another Pac-12 team.
Go
They
Big
beat
12,
Arizona
baby.
State. UCF had lost earlier on a Friday night. Now, let's get to some chat. And then, Paul, we got the lines lit up as well from Scotty B. Good afternoon. Okay, a lot of you saying that. Thank you. Travis, Iowa State hate week from Scotty. Oklahoma is not a top 5 team, in my opinion. I would put them no higher than 6th. Let's see here. Owen, how about them Mountaineers? Colin, happy Monday.
Yeah.
Great weekend. Told you I'd show up to take care of the Florida loss and lumps. S. Michael DeHart, Mountaineers taking on the Sooners this weekend. Let's see. How about BYU? Chase Sorensen.
You mean the team that's in first place in the Pac-12?
Yeah, they're winning the Pac-12, and there's a chance that you end up being unbeaten against the Big 12 if they beat Baylor. I don't know who else they played in the conference. All right, there's another one. Kansas State versus Oklahoma State will be a sneaky one. This is one of the best weekends since 2018 for football. Good close games and nail biters. The new Big 12 is looking solid. Iowa State, Cincinnati, Brigham Young, all top 25 teams. Mike, with a $20 super chat. How about those BY Cougars and the Dallas Cowboys? And we will have a segment with David Hellman on the Cowboys today at 5:30.
One more thing on the Big 12 weekend. Oklahoma State got super, super lucky, and Boise State got straight up hosed by the inadvertent whistle.
Sure did. Should not have been the call, but it was because of an inadvertent whistle. Boise State would have scored. Boise State would have probably held on and won, and instead they don't come up with the points, even though they got the ball back. So that was a terrible way to end that game. Now, granted, Boise State had an early lead and should have held on to it, but no, they that should have been, the eventual winning score, and instead it was, them missing out on an opportunity, even though they did get the football. But Oklahoma State, man, Spencer Sanders is just not. He's just not going to change at this point. I know at some point in the next few weeks he'll probably have some great game where he runs for 85 yards and 2 scores and throws for 200 and 2 scores and they beat Texas or somebody, But that's not going to change. He's been around long enough to know he's just who he is, and the thought of, well, he might get better at this point. No, he's who he is, and I think right now he's more of a liability for Oklahoma State than he is somebody that's going to put them over the top.
Well, somebody who's not a liability is Gary Bohannon for 3 games. Yes, teams that they should beat, but he was spectacular again against Kansas. Now everybody finds out from Baylor about who they are with Iowa State this week from the 4-0. Again, Oklahoma State gifted a win. Total screw job. Phantom interference call. Whistling cost Boise State the touchdown on Oklahoma State fumble. And Oklahoma State fans, I don't know if you agree with that or not. 859, the regression on Clemson. Miami realizing they're trash. And Cincinnati spotting Indiana 14 points and still winning.
Yeah, they didn't look good.
By 14 on the road.
They didn't look good early at all, and fortunately for the Bearcats, they came back and won that game. But yeah, that was
so many explosive playmakers.
That was dicey early.
Number 2 on that list is pretty funny. Is Miami realizing they're trash, as if that there was a moment during the Michigan State game where they're like, "Hey, are we not good?"
Yeah.
Do you think all those NIL people are really happy with that De'Aaron King payment they gave?
De'Aaron King and Mackenzie Milton both. I mean, Mackenzie Milton's got a story of triumph over almost losing his career, but even still, if I am, and I'm glad for those guys.
Oh, yeah.
But if I am a marketing person and my job is to market and to find people that drink my kombucha, eat this yogurt, drive this car, these sneakers are bitching, then I want someone who is winning.
Yeah, it's just the other side of the NIL coin. I was reading an article before the season started about how Derek King was like the king of this NIL stuff already and had already inked all these deals and was making moves. And I was happy for him. I follow him because he's from Texas. He's from Manville. So I've been following him with the Earl Campbell Award every time he's played since he's started playing college football, and always want him to do well. But, yeah, I couldn't help but think after reading that article, like, I wonder what kind of season he's going to have. And so far it's not very good. So I don't know if those businesses feel like their investment was, maybe a miss, or if they're getting something in return that we're not aware of, like customers, that it still doesn't matter at all. But that is like the catch-22 of that NIL is on paper, yeah, superstar. On the field, maybe not what you invested in, and so far that's the case with Miami.
Our lineup, Ricky Thompson, who does sideline for Baylor Radio, joins us, former Baylor and Washington football player. Will join us at 3:45. Billy Embody covers both LSU and SMU, but on SMU and TCU this week. Ryan Leaf, who's done a couple of Baylor games just after 5, ESPN color analyst. David Hellman on the Cowboys' dramatic win in Los Angeles against the Chargers, and Paul's top 5. We've got a pretty good lineup of guests throughout the week, but that's what we have at least for right now. Paul?
All right, let's go to the BetUS caller line. And Owen from Virginia, you are on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Thank y'all. How about them Mountaineers, baby? They beat the Hokies after 6,195 days. Them country roads took that Black Diamond Trophy home. Man, I am pumped. Finally beat them Chokies out there in Blacksburg. I am pumped.
Owen, when they do the hokey pokey, don't you think that's kind of dumb?
Just a little bit, but I can't say much. I had a cousin who graduated from Tech, so I can't say much. But
yeah. No, that was a great win. That was a great win for West Virginia.
Absolutely, and they came back a little bit right there at the second half. But overall, I mean, going into the third quarter or halfway through the third quarter, they had a 27-7 lead over 15th ranked Virginia Tech. So I'm pumped.
How much were you? I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. How
much were you puckered up in those last 3 or 4 plays near the goal line?
Woo! Let me tell you, me and Dad were sitting on the edge of our seats. We were all sitting there trying to just going, if we blow this lead, I don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah, that's a nice win.
Boy, we were all pumped. It was a very nice win. Oh, man, I'm pumped. Just wanted to get y'all's reaction. Daggy didn't look great, but he looked better. I'm pumped for the rest of the season. It's got me pumped up for OU. So let's go Mountaineers, baby.
Thank you very much, Owen. Appreciate the call. Good luck to West Virginia, Oklahoma, both. It's an important game. Obviously, Oklahoma kind of needs to they got to get better. In many ways, they scored, 23 points against a team that plays pretty decent defense, but
Spencer Rattler's he kind of sucks sometimes.
Yeah,
I mean, he does. He does. It's like he's so talented that it's tiring to even keep saying it about him. He's so talented because we all know he's talented. I mean, we've been hearing that for years now. But he just does some things sometimes, whether it's ball security or just decision making or what have you.
Like it goes anywhere.
And I've seen. I don't want to pretend like this is some original thought. It was original thought when it came to me, but now I've seen it repeated on Twitter a few times. So it's a shared thought amongst people out there who are college football fans, but. This is life when you don't have a transfer quarterback who's played a bunch of games at a big school like they had with Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray and, Baker Mayfield to a lesser extent, even though he played at Texas Tech. So they had those veteran guys who kind of came in and were already somewhat polished, and Lincoln Riley put the finishing touches on them. And this is one of his first, from the ground up type of projects. And so he inherited a lot of talent, but a lot of rough spots still. And the rough spots are rough enough that as talented as he is, he may cost you a game or two this year, And that's just how I kind of view Oklahoma right now. They have other question marks, of course, as well, but, like being able to protect a lead. They get a big lead, they can't run the football, and all of a sudden things start going sideways.
Kennedy Brooks doesn't look the same, does he?
He doesn't look the same after a year away. I thought he was going to come in and just go nuts. I thought Kennedy Brooks was going to go nuts after a year off, but no, he does it. So, yeah, they're not bulletproof by any – I still think they're the best team in the Big 12, just on paper and from what we've seen, but they're not like wide, heavy favorites.
I gotta say this. So what's wrong with sometimes winning? I mean, I understand everyone wants a beauty contest. They won the game against a longtime rival, although it's been interrupted. A lot of emotion in that game. They were I thought it would be a 50-20 game. I did. So, but we want to like have a beauty pageant every week, but they aren't. They are missing something, or whatever that is.
I think part of it is just a little bit maybe seasoned maturity in that they seem to get bored, or they're not as engaged right off the bat, and.
They're very nearly drive and score.
Yeah. They're very nearly just a couple things away from being 1-2 right now. Yeah. So it's not a matter of like how you beat somebody. It's a matter of you nearly let Tulane come back in a historic way and defeat you when you had that game fully in control. And then when Nebraska, game that a lot of people thought was going to be Scott Frost's last ride because of the situation they were in, hell, they played better than you in a lot of ways, and like that's inexcusable to me, especially in Norman. Like, that was set up to just for them to tee off. And so a lot of credit to Nebraska and Scott Frost, but there are some concerns with Oklahoma. But again, they're still the favorites. And going back to West Virginia, I mean, Daggy did look better, but man, he nearly cost them the game at the end. And to have a defensive stand like that, I mean, I can't imagine how pumped up Mountaineers fans were to get 4 stops to save and win the game. Unbelievable. But yeah, Jarrett Daggy looked better, but man, again, still make some mistakes, kind of like I was talking about with Rattlers. Some mistakes that'll cost you.
I don't see an unbeatable team out there, and that includes even Alabama. From Mike Barr on Spencer Sanders, not a liability when you're down to using a walk-on receiver, and with many injuries they have at the wide receiver position. And in fact, Cabanis, who's a walk-on receiver who caught the touchdown, there's a story. His dad may have played at Oklahoma State, and there's some sort of connection to him. I don't know who it is, but something, I got it in my notes. I got a bit different notes, but that was kind of a cool story on Oklahoma State and the receiver being a walk-on who caught that touchdown.
Yeah, that's very cool. And liability is probably not the right word, and when I said it is probably not the right word. And what I mean by that, though, is more or less what I'm talking about with Daggy and with Rattler. It's just that he's very talented and can be very good for you, but there's just some things that he does that you're like, how in the world did you do that? Like, why did you do that? And that's the bad that you take with the good that Spencer Sanders has. But, yeah, I definitely noticed, and looking at the stats, I was like, who's this guy? Who's this guy? Who's this guy?
Well, because we're used to them having these great –
yeah, but they had a great run game on Saturday.
From Reddit College Football, Kel Cabanis, the walk-on receiver, grandson of former Oklahoma men's basketball coach Billy Tubbs, caught the clinching touchdown. He's also the son of former Oklahoma receiver Carl Cabanis. All right, Paul, 254-339-1122.
T-Rex is on the BetUS caller line. T-Rex, you're on Sick'em 365 Radio.
Hey, guys, happy Monday. It's a great feeling to be undefeated. Which brings me into answering your earlier question, top 3 things going on in college football, in our personal opinions, which don't actually mean anything, but I'm going to share it anyway. Number 1, Baylor continues to improve week to week. Number 2, most important thing in college football, Baylor's 3-0. And number 3, the most important, or I guess we could go 3-2-1, the most important part here is that Baylor is number 1 in the Big 12. Obviously, that doesn't really mean anything, but after last year, I think we can all hang our hat and enjoy it for a couple hours. But that brings us into this week. It's Iowa State. It's our first real test. Thank God we get it at home. It won't be as high as it was 2 years ago, so we ain't going to be able to use that Texas heat to our advantage. So what I do want to call on all the Baylor fans that are listening, and even if you ain't a Baylor fan, you got nothing better to do if you live around Waco. If you're not an Iowa State fan, get to the game. I'm literally staring at StubHub right now. There are tickets available after fees as low as $78 on the first level of the stadium. You're going to be in the shade. You're in the, well, maybe in the shade, I don't know, but you get to the game. There's tickets through Baylor. Get to the game. There are no excuses to not show up. I don't care if your wife is in labor. We have Skype, all right? Your wife will forgive you eventually. Just buy her a diamond ring, all right, or buy her a necklace, right? If you got a newborn, get to the game. It doesn't matter. I was going to games at less than a month-year-old. Maybe that's my problem. No excuses. Get to the game. I'll be there. Show up early. Students, if you're probably not listening because you're probably still in class, maybe, I don't know. Pre-game, make sure you wear your cowboy boots. They have room on the sides of your ankles for a reason. If you know, you know. Sickle Bears, Iowa State, and let's be number 1 in the Big 12 and get some top 25 rankings and keep shocking the world. That 6 p.m. kickoff in Stillwater, though, that's looking mighty nice as well. So let's give ESPN a reason to continue to put us on their prime time, not relegate us to the streaming services so much.
All right,
Bears,
T-Rex, thank you, buddy. Appreciate the call. Thanks for your time. Yeah, the boots are made for bottles, isn't that?
I mean, you're supposed to say.
Flasks or whatever they are.
That's why you said if you know, you know.
Don't you
T-Rex,
understand
I love
how
the way
you
internet
go all
works?
over the place?
Blew it right away.
Well, I don't know. I didn't know. I mean, I'm talking about like little Pepsi cans or Coca-Cola, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about Baylor. They're 3-0. They should be. We expected them all. All of us said they should be 3-0. They better be 3-0. But I feel not like that they're gonna win. I don't know what they're gonna do. Because Iowa State is really, really good. They've had some of their warts as well because of what Iowa's really good. But somebody asked me today, is this got a feel of 2019? It's too early for that. But they have right now almost that personality. The defense, I don't see enough of a pass rush. That 19 team had a great pass rush. They are running the hell out of the football. Jeff Grimes and Eric Mateos have to be just thrilled. Gary Bohannon is being just fantastic so far against who he's played against. But he is throwing the ball from every angle, every way, every possible route. They're pretty good. But isn't this the barometer of who they're going to be?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the first real game they played. The other three teams, they were all expected to win by double digits, and they won by double digits except for that Texas State game. So, yeah, it's just a little bit of a step up now playing a top 25 team in Iowa State, who we know came in with a lot of preseason expectations. They've looked okay. They haven't looked great. They haven't looked terrible. They've looked okay. And I think Baylor has a chance to win this game this weekend, and not because everybody has a chance every time you take the field. I think you combine the fact that they're at home, but just the way that they played. I said in an article today, it's not about who they played, it's about how they played. And they played really well, doing the things that they should be doing well against teams like that. So that's what gives me encouragement. Not that they beat up on Kansas or beat up on Texas Southern. It's the way they beat up on Kansas and Texas Southern. It was smashing the football. And look, there's going to be a huge challenge with the Iowa State defense compared to what they've seen. So this will be a tell-all about, how strong this run game really is, how good this offensive line really is, how good Gary Bohannon really is. Iowa State's going to take some things away, and they're going to have to find ways to get around that. But I think when you look back at this weekend, all of a sudden, here's the fullback involved. A fullback, what? They have a fullback? Here's the tight ends getting involved. Here's Ebner. Here's all these other guys. Here's Snead now making plays. There's a lot for Iowa State to have to prepare for. I do worry about Baylor's pass rush, but Brock Purdy has shown he can be a turnover machine if you put a little sauce on him, and I expect Baylor to bring Bernard and Petrie and try to get to him as much as possible. But I think it's going to be a great game. I don't think Iowa State is head and shoulders better than them. I think Baylor has a good team this year, and they're going to be competitive, especially this first, big home game like this.
All right, when we come back, more from the calls.
And
thanks for a lot of you that jumped on early, 254-339-1122.
And to the point about fans, I know there are certain fans that they absolutely cannot go. Like, they truly can't. They're too old or whatever the case may be. But for everybody else, there's more than enough people to fill that stadium. And I don't want to hear any excuses. If you were sitting there crying and whining about maybe getting booted out of the Big 12 a month ago, and now you're one of those that's like, I just don't feel like going to the game. Who cares?
Too hot, too early, too whatever.
Then don't call up and complain about maybe not being in a big conference again, because part of what they do look at is, fan support, attendance, things of that nature. So it's a big deal to have fans there. It's a big game. It should be packed out anyways and shouldn't even be a question.
I have, and Paul, you and I did a show together for many, many years. I couldn't believe what I saw when I first arrived here, but they had 17 years of pathetic. And then they started to give glimmers of hopes, and it still seemed like it wasn't much. Baylor fans do get and take a lot of hits because of the crowd attendance in the old days of Floyd Casey. I do think that there seems to be a lot of excuses. Your football team is 3-0. They're about to play a damn good team that was almost in some cases the co-favorite other than Oklahoma. If they don't win it, then Iowa State would win the Big 12. Your team plays well. They're fun to watch, and they're good. They seem to do it right. But if it's not packed, it won't surprise me. Yeah. And I've beaten that drum so many times that I just finally decided I wasn't going to do it, whether it's before a game or after a game. You want to go, it's your school, it's not mine. Go support them. If you're just a fan and want to watch college football, Breece Hall's one of the best running backs in America. Treston Edwards, explosive. It's to me is a game you'd want to watch.
Oh, yeah,
Rose,
absolutely.
the linebacker, the tight end, Kohler.
If they win this game, they're 4-0, and they've got a huge test already out of the way, and there's no reason to think they can't go and win the rest of them. I mean, seriously, if they beat Iowa State, there's a lot to like about this team, and people will just look at who they played and just roll their eyes and go, yeah, whatever. But when you had to sit there and watch every snap like we did last year and how god-awful that was, and you watch now, it's not even close. It's not even close to a comparison. Offense just by itself is so night and day. So they're like you said, they're a fun team to watch. I expect them to score some points this weekend. I expect Iowa State to score some points, and I expect a hell of a game.
All right, when we come back, calls, text, also the chat room fodder continues. Mike George did ask me this. Do you feel like the female announcer in that game said, "Go Baylor, go"? I didn't even hear that because I didn't listen to the game. I just watched it on ESPN+. Yeah, that probably didn't go over very well, and it wouldn't go over very well if it was the opposite way as well.
When I heard that, I was like, what in the world?
I know. Yeah, it got excited, part of the moment, but that was probably something that was in the Monday morning quarterback session. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Got this from Brian Bauer, Waco Custom Marketplace. Tailgating this weekend, McLean Stadium, a 2:30 kick, so it's a really great time. Be able to get there early enough, tailgate, enjoy it, and then also be ready for the game at 2:30. This is what they have on special for this week at Waco Custom Marketplace, your tailgate headquarters. Frozen 1-pound ground beef, $2.75 a pound, along with 1-pound ground chili. From select choice and prime ribeye steaks, $13.99, $19.99, and $25.99 a pound. Pork steak, $1.99 a pound. German sausage, $3.50 a pound, and thin sliced chicken breast for $2.40 a pound. And then on top of that, there's this picture I have in front of me. Bacon wrapped fillets that are this thick. They will custom cut the thickness of what you want with a bone-in ribeye or a filet. And then, of course, they have sausage. They have pork and poultry as well. And then the bacon wrap, jalapenos, right? Bacon wrap with some cheese in the middle of it. Put that on the grill as an appetizer leading up to the game. Cold beer, whatever you want. They have that too, and wine. And all of the little grocery things you need up and down the middle aisles at the Old Town homemade, old-fashioned grocery store. Waco Custom Marketplace. You can call and order your tailgate product today. Pick it up later in the week at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
The 2021 Ram brand just received first place in the prestigious J.D. Power's Initial Quality Study. The Dodge brand finished second to Ram, and the 2021 Jeep Gladiator is first among all midsize trucks. Quality and Ram Power Days, only at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340.
Come by, let's be friends.
It's football season. Sports bettors and BetUS.com has your NFL and college football live betting lines up for their 27th year. Why BetUS.com? Well, they're the 3-decade leader, and you can join now for a 125% bonus on promo code SICK'EM125 with cash, or a 200% bonus on crypto with SICK'EM200. The 3-decade leader with action on every sport across the world. We can pretty much guarantee that they've got your game at BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
For a limited time, refinance your vehicle and have 90 days with zero payments. Only at Genco FCU. Refinancing lowers your rate and you pay less for your car. You can't pass on rates as low as 1.75% for 48 months. Apply online today.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. Go to GencoFCU.org. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco. Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfect pizza. Bob Mock has owned Marco's Pizza franchises since 2013 and has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in the Waco area, in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Order at marcos.com to make any moment better. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Call us on the Bet US hotline, 254-339-1122.
We will give away either 1 or possibly 2 pair of tickets for this Saturday's Baylor game at home against Iowa State, so stay tuned for that. It will tell you how we do that. It won't be today, but at some point this week, and so that's coming up. Now, Jack, before we go back to the calls, text, and much more, do you have the moment? Billy Embody will join us. I'll tell you what, no, we'll wait till he's on with us, 4:45, the SMU Law Tech finish to that game. We'll do that at 4:45.
I mean, I know SMU and Tanner will get all the credit and all that, but absolutely choke job by La Tech on that play. I mean, knock the ball down, and, you know, you can slow it down and see where, you know, certain things happened to where it popped up the way that it did, but come on, La Tech. That was yours, man, and you just let that game slip right through your fingers.
By the way, Fresno State, yeah, I agree. You see that about 2-3 times a year. Fresno State getting some love because of their win against, UCLA?
They should.
And they should. San Diego State beat up on Utah. Charlie Brewer did not finish that game. Cameron Rising did. And I don't know about what Charlie and how many more snaps he has at Utah, but had the decent start in the opening game, and then it just has gone down since that time. I will always love that young man for what he did, how he did it. But, yeah, his career right now seems to be it does seem to be on fumes.
I never had anything personal against Charlie, never had any reason to have anything, of any negative feeling towards Charlie. There were definitely times watching him where I grew incredibly frustrated because I felt like for all the excuses that you could give him, bad offensive line, receivers not running proper routes, whatever the case may be, not getting separation. There were a lot of times where, their struggles were on him. You can lay the blame at a lot of different places, and that's why they struggled. Especially last year. That was, when we really look back on that, guys, think about how bad that offense was. That was an atrocious line, and you had 2 coaches who were on completely separate pages for one common cause and didn't see eye to eye. It was so bad. So I hated that was how he had to close out his Baylor career. But I got to say, when he announced his transfer, I was like, good. I think the fans need somebody new back there. I think Charlie needs a new fan base to root for him. But at the same time, I said this over and over and over again during the offseason. I'm very curious to see how he does, because was it more of what was happening at Baylor that was an effect on his play, or was it that's just some of it, and then a lot of it was also him? And I think 3 games in his Utah tenure, you see the same things you saw at Baylor. And they look, Utah does not have a good O-line. Their O-line stinks, or at least it did the other night. But Cam Rising came in there, and they were down 2 scores and came back and led them all the way to overtime, and they still lost. But the only reason they had a chance in that game was because of Cam Rising. And so I don't see Charlie getting back out there and playing over him anytime soon.
What I think a lot of people don't quite realize when they watch football is that everybody who plays football only has there's a meter on the hits you have in you. And you don't know when that last hit. You don't know when the meter is.
They call it a bump card.
Yeah, exactly.
There's only so many bumps you can take.
You only have so many you can take. And I think that hit he took that knocked him out of the Big 12 championship game against Oklahoma was the one. Because he was not the same after that. He wasn't good against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl a month later, a little bit less than a month later. He wasn't good when the season started last year. And I think part of it is that it wasn't a concussion. We know it wasn't a concussion, but sometimes it's just your body is done. And I thought that about Charlie for a while, and Charlie is diminutive as football players go. And because of that, your bump card for football is probably has less punches on it than would a guy like, say Cam Rising, who's a lot bigger.
Yeah, but we don't know how much more. We'll see what happens with how they handle that quarterback position.
All right, 2 quick calls. Let's go to Mike in West Virginia. Mike, thanks for your call. You're on the BetUS caller line.
Thanks for taking my call. Great show as always, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, I don't know how much you guys got to watch the West Virginia Tech game, but the first half we just pretty much had our way with them. We played great football, hell of an environment in Morgantown, one of the best games in quite some time. But I like Neil Brown a lot. I think he's the coach for our future, but there was a couple of things that he did at the end of the first half that had me thinking a little bit, and I wanted to get your guys' opinion on it. There's 2 minutes and 8 seconds to go in the first half. West Virginia's got the ball, 1st and goal at the 2-yard line on a running clock. Tech has 3 timeouts left, but they're not using one. On 1st down, instead of us running that play clock down to about 2 seconds and giving it to Letty Brown, we snap the ball with 2 seconds off the play clock and throw a fade route, which Nagy hasn't completed since he's been here. 2nd down, we do the same thing. We throw a pass. 3rd down, 2nd down, we run a naked bootleg with Nagy. 3rd down, we throw a pass in the back of the end zone, which he barely steps out, which I'm okay with that play.
Yeah.
But we give him the ball back with 1 minute, 48 seconds to go, and then the worst thing that we do after we kick the field goal, they've got one all-star on that team, which is the wide receiver that we kick it to, and he almost breaks it for a touchdown to close the second half. There's no way I'm kicking him that ball. But just the decisions that we made and the choices there, I'm running that clock down. I'm giving them the ball with less than 30 seconds if we don't get the touchdown, but I'm giving Letty Brown that ball 3 times. What do you guys think there?
Well, if you have someone, and he was elite, had the long run early, had 30 yards or whatever. That's what I do. But then damned if you do, damned if you don't, because then if you do and they stop you, it's like, well, everyone knew he was going to get the ball. So you try to maybe do a something. But I'm always keep it simple, stupid. Don't outthink yourself. Just go do what you've been doing. And I give Levy, I would give Breece Hall a ton of carries if the game was on the line and I needed to wear out the clock. Maybe a couple of times I do a little waggle when my quarterback has the option to run or pass.
Yeah. Look, if I've
got beat the hell out of Virginia Tech early in that game.
Yeah,
and
but
then,
if I've got a running back like Letty Brown, I'm giving him the ball until he begs me to stop.
Yep, and I don't think he ever will beg you to stop either. Memphis, let's not forget about their win against the SEC against Mississippi State. That was a crazy game with a crazy punt return that was about to be blown dead, but they went and took it the distance, 90-something yards. That was a great win for Memphis as well. One more call.
All right, Steven in Virginia, you're on the BetUS caller line. Thanks for your call.
Hey, guys, I want to be really excited about this game on Saturday. I'm ready to explode, and I think it's fair to say that Coach Rule and Coach Aranda recruit such great players that now they've got some great coaches, and Mateos and the offensive line coaches and Jeff Grimes and Vic Valoria, and they are able to coach those players to be better, and I have not seen anything but stinkers in the other teams in the Big 12. Baylor could very well go to a big bowl game and get thumped by an SEC team, but I have a hard time believing anybody's going to thump Baylor in the Big 12 this year. So looking for a close game against Iowa State, and I'm starting to set the expectations at 7 or 8 wins. I don't know how y'all feel about that, so I'd like to hear what y'all think.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Stephen. Great to hear from you. I saw a tweet from Stephen earlier today. He was so pumped up about the start of the year and where Baylor might end up, because remember, they're still a work in progress in what Jeff Grimes and Mateos have done with that running game. And they have 3 backs. I mean, we know what Ebner can do. We now know, of course, what Abram Smith can do. And then this Tay McWilliams, right?
Yeah, I mean,
he comes in when, and wears you down too.
Yeah, I mean, he's come in the last 2 weeks when they've been up by like 40 and scored touchdowns. I said, though, in my review, like, to his credit, he's making the most of his opportunities. I mean, most guys could go in there and, get a carry for 5 or 6 yards. And Tay McWilliams, like, the game's pretty much over. That's why you're out there. And it's really a matter of just grinding the clock down. And he's like, hell with that. I'm going to score touchdowns while I'm out here. So I think it's awesome that he's done that. I don't know that I'm ready to, like, fit him in that other group just yet because we haven't seen him in, like, the first quarter, take a couple carries and try to pick up a first down. No. We've seen him come in when the defense is already defeated and the white flag has been raised. But, like I said, he's taking advantage of his opportunities. So, I'm excited for this game. I think that Baylor, the run game is legit. We'll see for sure this weekend, no doubt about it. That O-line's playing hard. We'll see for sure kind of where they are. But, it's not a matter of maybe in past situations where it was talent versus talent. This is scheme that is helping Baylor have the success they are on offense. And they seem to know this scheme backwards and forwards and know it really well. And now they're throwing in, all of a sudden, here's a fullback dive on the goal line. Here's a tight end for the first touchdown.
My heart fluttered.
Oh, yeah, the first 2 touchdowns were a tight end and a fullback.
Yeah.
I mean, who had that bingo card? And then going back to that West Virginia call, I know we got to go. I mean, I understand where your concerns come from on some of the decision-making. I think you just chalk that up to, sometimes coaches don't make the right decisions. You'd like to see them go another way. But if you're a West Virginia fan, I think Neil Brown has shown more positive than negative for sure. And, got to get that quarterback situation settled. But that was a massive win. Just be happy with that win and that with a black diamond.
And the other team gets a scholarship too, by the way. The other team has guys on scholarship as well.
People make mistakes.
That last chat room comment, Scott Taylor. Grimes will not tolerate bad O-line play. He gets in the trenches to teach and gives Baylor a solid chance. Eric Mateos and Grimes, that combination so far has been very impressive.
Made a world of difference.
Ricky Thompson will talk about that with us, former Baylor wide receiver, sideline analyst for Baylor Radio, is next on Sikkim 365 Radio. City of Woodway, they continue to have a lot of the events going on, and I have from Jesse Reed some new information. Of course, you can follow Discover Woodway on Instagram for more announcements. The Woodway Wine and Food Fest sold out. The week tickets went live. So don't miss the great events when I give them to you, or they're on Instagram as well. Woodway's Family Center continues hosting clinics at the park 4 weeks, 2 days a week. Woodway residents get a discount. More sports coming, but right now, flag football at Whitehall Park, 5 to 10-year-olds, and sand volleyball at Pogue Park for 8 to 11 years old. Download the Discover Woodway app and get what you need for what they're doing with events and concerts and more. And also the 7 hotels in Woodway, community boasting breathtaking beauty, close to the lake, just a few miles away, a 10, maybe 12-minute drive to the Magnolia Silos and Balcones, or even our studio, or McLean Stadium, or Baylor University. Hike, shop, and stay in Woodway. Great option to folks coming into town for the game this weekend against Iowa State. Go to discoverwoodway.com.
It's time for some high school football. Berg Colgan Ford proudly celebrates the Panthers, Cadets, Lions, and all the Central Texas football teams as they march their way through the season and down the field. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgan Ford. We'd love to show you our Broncos, Raptors, and Mustangs. These vehicles are winners with their sporty options and designs. Nominate who you think deserves the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week at FordPlayerOfTheWeek.com. Visit us anytime at BKFord.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Well, I love the chat room, the constant chatter. Some of you going back and forth on games we've discussed, and maybe a couple more we will more often about Auburn and Penn State. We're now joined by Ricky Thompson, former Baylor and Washington wide receiver, the old Redskins back in the day, and also sideline reporter for Baylor Radio on Sikkim 365 Radio. Ricky, I know who they've beaten. They should have beaten. But again, you played the game. Is that always a dangerous thing when we go, yeah, but that's what they should do? A win is a win, and they look good now when they're doing it with what they're doing on the offensive line.
Yeah, I see both sides of this thing, Smoke. I know these are teams that you and I both know if we would have lost one of these three games, people would be jumping off the cliff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Texas State could have played better. Texas Southern was Texas Southern. I thought Saturday proved to me, I think this football team's better than people think. I just think there's some pieces in place where this team could be pretty good. We'll learn a lot about that Saturday. I know Kansas. I know the history. I know their record in the past. But I tell you what, the way these kids played Saturday was impressive. The second half, this game was domination. The 45-7 really doesn't tell the story. I thought our offensive and defensive fronts both dominated this football game. I thought Gary Bohannon was exceptional. Our running backs were good. Squirrel probably is back this week. Defensively, we're just solid across the board. We'll find out Saturday, but I think this team is pretty good. You get no attention nationally, obviously, until you beat somebody like an Iowa State or Oklahoma State or somebody, but I think that's coming. I really do. I've been really impressed with what I've seen so far.
Ricky, they truly are. Matt Rule tried his time here to have a truly complementary football team, and whether that sustains it through the season, we'll see. But so far through 3 games, their offense and defense are completely complementary, and Dave Aranda seems to have found the offensive system that makes that happen, didn't he?
Absolutely, and I thought the second half Saturday was probably as impressive a half as they've had thus far. I thought they completely dominated that game. Obviously, the first half dominated that as well, except on the scoreboard. And guys, we know that's the part that counts.
Mm-hmm.
But they came out, had a 3-and-out, go 69 yards to R.J. Sneed on the very first play. By the way, who was escorted the last 20 yards by Tyquan Thornton, which is, I thought, was a very impressive play by Tyquan to be down there blocking for RJ, because he would not have scored without him. But we're talking about 3 plays and out on defense, 1 play, you're up 21-7. And I really think that play ended the ball game. Obviously it wasn't over, but that turned it because Kansas had a little momentum. We took it away in 4 plays in the second half. And from that point forward, I thought we really dominated. And guys, these running backs are pretty good. You watch them and the way they run, and Treston Ebner in particular, to me, has changed the way he runs the football. I think this wide zone is really good for him because you pick your holes, you can cut back. But the difference in Treston that I see is downfield, this dude's running hard, guys. He is running past people. He's breaking tackles. I think he has looked really good. And Abram Smith, this guy's tough. He's downhill. Tay Williams the other day looked very good. We haven't seen Squirrel. We know the receivers. And the other side of this, to me, we've been plain vanilla. We've done nothing extraordinarily, just really ordinary. I don't think we've done anything tricky on offense. It's just been straightforward, wide zone, play action, waggle type passes, and we've been pretty successful at it.
Ricky, when's the last time you saw a Baylor football fullback score a touchdown?
Saturday, and before that, I don't remember one.
Yeah. It's a nice wrinkle, huh?
Yeah.
I told the guys from the sideline, not on that play, but have you ever seen your middle linebacker play fullback? Dylan Doyle's out there on a 4th and short playing fullback, and I'm not so sure before the season's over they may not hand it to him. That guy's 240 and can run pretty well. I would hate to try to tackle him. I'd have to untie his shoes.
So we will know, obviously, and Iowa State has had that test early with Iowa. We know how good Iowa can be and how fundamentally strong they are and how they play with Kurt Ferentz. Is there any similarity whatsoever to what you saw early on in 2019 to what you're seeing now?
Yes, and it's confidence. I think these guys are really confident in what they're doing. I think the staff has done a good job in making them believe that they can be really good. I think they believe that. I see these, and we're dropping names, but go back to Charlie Brewer in 19 and a couple of the runs he made where he really took guys head on, and how the offensive linemen ran down to him and they really rallied around Charlie. And I think that's what I've seen on offense this year. These guys love Gary Bohannon, and he's earned that. He's played really hard. He's made good decisions, and he's always smiling out there. He's leading these guys. They like him. They believe in him. Defensively, Terrell Bernard, Petrie, all these guys that have been here for this length of time, and they like each other. You know, we kind of laugh at that, but I do think that's important. Every good team I've been a part of, the guys got along and they liked each other and they played hard for each other. And we mentioned Tyquan running 60 yards downfield, blocking for his teammate who is a receiver. You know, Tyquan would rather have had the ball. But, I think it's really similar in the fact that they believe in each other. They're playing hard, and the scheme's good. I see some similarities. We still got to get that win over a really good team, and I think Saturday's going to be a heck of a football game.
Ricky, you mentioned Treston Ebner and the way he's running now, that he'll throw his shoulder into somebody without question. He was not doing that a year ago at all. He was dancing in the hole. He was dancing whenever he was out in space. Is that a function of this offensive system that kind of has to train that out of you, because you can't dance in a hole? You got to pick your spot and go.
Well, no, Paul, you're on the money. And I think that's the way this wide zone works. You have these offensive linemen who aren't necessarily having to blow people off the ball. They have the wide zone. They've got the push in the same direction with the counter in the backfield, and then they pick their holes. It's a little different in the days of you're going to run in the 2-hole, 4-hole, and it doesn't matter if there's 14 people stacked there. That's where you're going to go. These guys have that option, and that really fits Treston well. But I still think he's changed. Paul, as you mentioned, downfield, he still got sideways when he went even downfield, and he's not doing that anymore. And he nearly broke a couple for really long games this past Saturday, and he's going to do that based on the way he's running with the football. And I think that's a function of the offense and a function of these coaches working with Treston and telling him what he needs to do to be a great running back.
Ricky, we saw that quarterback competition go up until a couple of weeks before the season. I think, a lot of people thought that Gary Bohannon would probably eventually win that job. He's not only won it, but now through 3 games, he's played exceptionally well. Now, this weekend, he'll have, live bullets coming at him in a way that he hasn't seen so far and that we haven't seen so far. But given who they've, had to go line up against, what have you thought about his performance and just the different dynamics, not only with the arm and the throws that he can make that they haven't been able to make in a while, but also, we saw on Saturday he wasn't running much, and all of a sudden there he is running up the middle for a touchdown, just to, another wrinkle in this offense.
Well, Craig, I tell you, I don't know how you ask really for a better start in the 3 games than what Gary Bohannon has had. You can only play against who you're playing against. Right. And he has done some really exceptional things. One thing I was telling JJ after the game, we've watched these 3, is he really it's tough to run a waggle for a quarterback right-handed going to his left. And we've seen him do that time and again and throw the ball with some zip 15, 20 yards down the field. We've seen him throw a 10-yard sideline route. You think, well, that's nothing. Well, yeah, it is when you're on the other hash and you're having to throw the ball 40 yards for a 10-yard gain. We haven't been able to do that the last 3 or 4 years. That's something that's in our offense now that we've just not been able to do. And he seems to be, we'll find out more Saturday, obviously, but he's unflappable. You just watch him and he never gets nervous. He stays calm. He makes a bad play. He just goes to the next one. And I'm not sure that'll change even against Iowa State. Now, better team, better defense. He's going to have to be really careful delivering the ball. He's going to have to protect it. But I think he'll do that. I just think Gary's going to get better and better.
That throw he made, which is one of those, my God, what are you doing, but has the arm strength to almost go somewhat sideways with the defensive back in the area to the near sideline, to me was insane. That play, that doesn't mean it was always a smart thing to do, but he got it there and it had something on it.
Well, scared me to death when he let go of it. He was flat-footed with 2 feet facing straight downfield, and the ball was thrown, as you said, to the Kansas sideline with the defender between he and the receiver. Laid it over the top, perfect throw, sideline route, great catch. Not many guys can make that throw. Not many guys would have tried to make that throw. And I think that's just a sign of the confidence and the ability and the arm strength in Gary Bohannon. You mentioned, too, the running. Ran with the ball more Saturday than he has all season, and I thought he ran with some authority. And I think Smoak, as we go forward into these bigger games, he's going to have to run the ball some, and I think he welcomes that.
Overall, and I know you spend a lot of your time, you're traveling, you're doing the games, but I have not. I know Alabama's good, and they had to fight at Florida, but Florida's obviously a tough place to play, and they had a pretty good lead in Florida. Here they are going for 2 to try to force overtime. I haven't seen anybody that's unbeatable. I haven't seen anybody that doesn't mean people won't get better. Baylor may get better. Iowa State could get better. Alabama will get better. But how much have you watched the landscape of college football so far this year?
Well, I watch as much as I can. I love to just watch the ball games. But how about Ohio State and Tulsa?
Mm-hmm.
Tulsa hung in there deep into the second half in that ball game at Ohio State. So Oregon really handed it to them at home. So you're right. I don't think anybody's unbeatable. Alabama seemed to be that early, but Florida had a chance to stick that game into overtime. So much different landscape. I think even in the Big 12, we may see some of the same. Baylor, TCU, some of these middle-of-the-pack teams, as they're predicted, or even lower, may be better than you think. So it's a crazy season already. And we're 3 games in?
Yeah.
This could get really, really intense down toward the end of the season to see who those 4 playoff teams might be.
The 4 playoff teams, conferences, bragging rights. You got the haves and have-nots. You got some teams that feel like they have to prove they belong, and some that are trying to audition. Should be one hell of a year. Ricky, look forward to Saturday. Craig, another question for him? That's what I asked earlier.
Yeah, Ricky, final thing for you.
Okay.
It's all been really good for Baylor for the most part, but I will say I do have one concern so far, and I'm just wondering if you share it. Does the lack of a pass rush concern you at this point?
Well, yes. I mean, without one, there are teams that are going to pick you apart if you let that guy sit back there. I think that against Texas State, we went after him pretty well. I thought that kid did a great job of scrambling, making it tough for us to bring him down. I think something you may see, Craig, against these better teams, and we're about to see a quarterback that is capable of throwing interceptions. We had 3 on him last year. I mean, the kid's really good, but we picked him off 3 times. In fact, Petrie had a pick 6. So, but a lot of that comes with having that rush. And I think too that maybe we haven't brought the attack that we're capable of with bringing some guys off the corner, bringing some extra guys. I think there's some things there where we've been pretty simple so far. So I think that might be, and this is nothing I know from coaches, it's just a guess, that I think you might see a little more activity with some guys like Terrell Bernard, Jalen Petrie coming after the quarterback this coming week, which will enhance that pass rush. And I think you can do that with your 2 corners. Tejada, 6-year guy, he can cover. I just think based on that you may see some more guys come. But without a pass rush in the Big 12, you're in trouble, Craig.
Yeah, thank you, Ricky. Appreciate it. I just had somebody on the text line. Is this Ricky Thompson you're speaking to? Played for the Washington Redskins, now the football team? From the 972 area code. Yes, sir, it is. The Ricky Thompson who did that.
Do you all have that same concern? I mean, I know. Here's the thing, is they got into the backfield against Brady McBride a few times, but they couldn't get a hold of him. And then Jason Bean, we know he's just super athletic, which is why he was one of the players to watch last week. And he's got a lot of work to do, but you see why he's dangerous. Mm-hmm. And I just worry that if Apu and, Chidi Ogbonnaya or whoever lines up front, that's like, I know the linebackers can come up. I know they can send the corners or the safeties on occasion, but where are the big dudes up front that are busting it open? And they're shutting down run games, but they're not really getting loose and causing havoc in the backfield. And maybe they are holding off a little bit. I don't know, but that is my biggest concern as of now.
It should be. No one's perfect. They're not perfect.
Yeah.
And that's why when you get a game like this, you learn a lot about yourself. Maybe you're better than you think, or maybe you're not quite as good. And in some cases, it could give her. Earlier today, Dave Aranda and Ricky, thanks for your time. They just said, you got to be kidding me. I am now a fan of the shows for life because we had Ricky Thompson on the show.
Sweet.
That's great. Great thing. Thanks for the text from the 972. Earlier today, Dave Aranda met with the media, and one of the questions was about Siaka Ika or Apu. He was able to play. At times he looked gassed. At times he looked like his leverage or his balance was not the same. And we're going to come back and hear from what Dave Aranda had to say about that. And a lot of you from the chat room, the number, 254-339-1122. Bob Williams, a huge Auburn fan on the chat room, is mad because Auburn didn't run the ball enough. Bigley, is it Bigley? They're talented freshman of the year last year. They were upset about maybe some of the calls. Maybe, I don't know if they actually publicly said that, but some of the reporting about that, they didn't like the last series. I thought when they went to that game, and, after what we had to deal with last year with crowds and no crowds or whatever, when they went to that whiteout, man, that just made my heart warm up. When I saw Oklahoma and Nebraska pack that stadium with 85,000 with red, different tints of red, colors of red, that's unbelievable. We're seeing what can be or what could be home field advantage, and Dave Aranda alluded to that earlier today as well.
Yeah, it was awesome to see
that was incredible.
State College just absolutely awash. Everybody wearing white T-shirts. You wonder, there's one guy who shows up wearing his blue Penn State shirt, and come on, Kevin.
Yeah. So
always misses.
So they go tell him to go to Home Depot and throw white paint on his shirt or something.
Just go to Walmart and get a white T-shirt. There you go.
That's the pageantry.
That is the pageantry, and that's what I hope they never lose in college football with this thing going to the bigger and bigger thing.
The NFL is obviously a superior brand of football in every way, but you look at their fans, and there's a lot of crazy NFL fans. The Raiders got their masks on and all that stuff, but all in all, there's nothing that compares to college football and its traditions and its pageantry and things like whiteouts in Happy Valley and stuff like that. Even the rivalries, just have a more special feeling because we get to see Redskins Giants twice a year, every single year. We see Redskins Cowboys isn't even that special anymore. It's just special because it was special back in the day for some people, But with college football, Auburn Penn State's not some historic rivalry. It's just two damn good teams, and people fired up to see them, and crowds happy to be back, and it was awesome. I absolutely love that. That's peak college football for me.
All right, when we come back, some of your chat, your text, your calls, 254-339-1122, and then Dave Aranda answering the question about Apu after he had missed a game because he was suspended, came back. A lot of times he's not going to maybe be a part of disruptive plays because he's taking up people, and he kind of breaks that down. But you would expect a few more tackles for losses or disruptive plays for him.
Well, I'm not saying it in D-line, too. It's just him.
No.
It's
but if he plays better, that should free somebody else up because they have to worry about it.
Yes, T.J. Franklin or Cheaty or someone. Yes, absolutely.
All right, we're back. 254-339-1122. We appreciate you watching, listening. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. I've told you many times about Ideal MRI and what they do. They locate whatever the problem is that hurts you so much that sometimes you can't sleep, you can't function, you can't work, you can't think. Because they get right to the problem of whatever your doctor says, hey, we need an MRI. Ideal MRI will find the issue and then have the images ready, call you and tell you what's going on. Whether it's a rotator cuff or an ACL, whether it's in your ankle or possibly what could be in your neck. And then I need to talk to you guys. My oldest brothers, Robert and Mike, have been through a lot of prostate issues. Both of them have been battered by it. And so, because I'm a part of the family, doctor asked me, hey, you may want to just get an MRI just to make sure. My PSA counts are fine. But as I'm 62 years old, it wouldn't hurt. So I called Dr. Rob Maxey and Al LeBlanc, and they set me up with an appointment last week to get an MRI on my abdomen. The results came back negative. There a little bit of I guess prostate was a little enlarged, but there was no mass. There were no problems. Everything was clear and negative. And that's the best news ever because you never know. And Ideal MRI, we think about muscles and ligaments. I talk about that all the time. But they can do that for you as well. So if you have any kind of history, and sometimes it's not hereditary, a lot of times it's not, it's just you that might have a PSA problem or prostate. Ideal MRI was able to get that done, set up the appointment, do the MRI. Thanks to Marcus, Darlene, and Stephanie. They were amazing. Dr. Maxey texted me on the weekend. Dr. Maxey texted me on the weekend to tell me everything was clear and negative at idealmri.com.
The thing about having a naked truck is that you get exposed for the equipment you don't have. Take, for example, your rear end. If you don't have anything back there, you're exposed about what you don't have, and that's a life. However, if you cover that rear end with a hitch, you're telling the world, hey, I got a little junk in my bed, and I'm ready to pull something. A camper, RV, boat, trailer, jet skis, heck, even a bike rack. A hitch says, I have a life beyond driving my truck to and from work, and Pickup Outfitters is the place to get a hitch for your truck SUV, van, even some cars. We sell and install just about any kind of hitch you need. Receiver hitches from light to heavyweight to pull just about anything. And gooseneck hitches and fifth wheels when you're ready to pull the heavy stuff. And don't forget trailer and brake controller wiring. It's so important to have wiring professionally and correctly installed by the pros at Pickup Outfitters. So it's time to cover that gaping hole in the rear end of your truck with a hitch installed by Pickup Outfitters. Check us out online at createacommotion.com.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness continues to add more weapons to your getting or staying in shape arsenal with 8 brand new treadmills ready for you to run or walk a mile or 2 or 10. And with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman with more courts available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available, their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Everywhere you look, there's energy, passion, and commitment. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room, and all the locker rooms with showers, sauna, and whirlpool. Upgraded PA system throughout the world-class tennis courts with a youth academy led by pro Britt Coleman. Fitness and tennis merchandise available and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
Escape the mundane with the responsive power and exhilarating agility of a new Cadillac from Richard Carr Cadillac. Smile behind the wheel again in the supercharged sophistication of a CT4 or CT5 sedan, or the sporty and spacious XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs. Starting at only $33,395, the Cadillac of your dreams is waiting now at an affordable price at Richard Carr. Test drive from the expansive selection at Richard Carr Cadillac, or let us bring a test drive to you. Go to richardcarcadillac.com to schedule a test drive today.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
That's not a call, Tim. Make it. I'll say yes. All right, let's see it. For the win. Zerline's kick. Is it long enough? It is into the net for the victory.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, the chat room continues on 365 Sports on YouTube. Thank you for watching, listening. We just received, we have been, Paul, Mexico City, Ramstein Air Force Base, is that right?
Yep.
And how about this one? Let's see here. Zambia. Lusaka, I believe I say that right, Zambia. Wow. Go Cyclones, hoping for an injury-free game for both teams. I will be watching from across the pond from the 515. Man,
Let's
that's
see,
awesome.
So it's a 2:30. I'm going to have to look at my time zone thing here.
On your phone?
On my phone to figure out what time it is
Well, thanks for the text from Zambia. Thank you as well. from watching and listening to what we do.
Yeah, I'm expecting a good game. I am. Iowa State's had their number here recently, for the most part, I guess. But, there's a lot to like about Baylor. I mean, I know people just want to look at their schedule and who they've played. But, I mean, that whole transitive property doesn't work all the time. If it did, then we'd know all the winners of every game. You're like, oh, this team beat that team. That means they're going to beat this team. But you can't really do that based on who Baylor's played. So I understand any doubts. And look, I myself have some as well because of who they played, but I know better football versus what we saw last year, and it is not even close to the same thing we saw last. It is not even in the same universe. Well, so that gives me optimism going into this weekend that, Iowa State's going to be good, but I think Baylor's going to be ready to play.
The common opponent is Kansas, who they did beat last year and beat badly, but they also got 2 kick returns to do it. They got some turnovers and did it. And there were all these different things that happened. And even in the Kansas game, you went back and they didn't run the ball that well.
No.
So it wasn't – they're knocking people off the ball, which they didn't do at all. Like, even if this is – so say this is 100% of their max ability to knock someone off the ball based on the ability of the team in front of them. Well, last year, they weren't even close to 100% of their max ability. Now, Iowa State's going to make that a lot harder. Abram Smith isn't going to take one cut and go and see no one standing there most of the time, nor is Treston Ebner. But if they do it some of the time, that's still more than they did all of last year. They've already surpassed the rushing total from a year ago.
In 3 games.
3 games.
Yeah.
That's how bad they were running the ball. So they could not have run the ball. Texas Southern, Texas State, Kansas, they could not run the ball. They couldn't run the ball against a 6-man team.
There was
couldn't do it.
14 minutes left in the game. Sam Kahn put this up there. Baylor had 888 yards rushing on the year. Last year they finished with 813 in 9 games. And you're right, even when they dominated Kansas last year, or even if they had some success in what they did against Kansas State, that was all just kind of the hully-gully stuff at the end of a game, like make it up and just somehow make some plays. They look as if they know what they're doing, and they have a rhyme and a reason to it as well. From the 801, I've got Baylor and Brigham Young, each in the top 15 for College Game Day in October. Good start for the Stone Cold Sober rivalry. I love it.
On a Dr.
Bring
Peppers.
your own root beer. Love you guys, Spencer, at the 801. Thank you.
I named it the Teetotaler rivalry.
Is BYU more root beers out there? Like Baylor's Dr. Pepper, we know that.
Well, it's got sugar and root beer doesn't have caffeine, so I guess they can drink that.
Okay.
But
Baylor's for sure Dr. Pepper. I mean, the Dr. Pepper Museum, literally, the Dr. Pepper Museum is like over here. So that's how that's how Dr. Pepper Waco is. But yeah, that's very possible. I mean, obviously this weekend's going to tell the tale. Like if Baylor wins this weekend, then you can start getting a little crazy with thoughts about, okay, how good are they really? And yeah, maybe good enough to make that a top 25 type matchup here in a few weeks against BYU. I think the game being scheduled the way that it was, and then you have all this realignment stuff that occurred that now leads to BYU, and this being a preview of a future Big 12 game, I think is awesome. I think the fact that there's going to be a return trip to Provo, so both sides get to see both places before officially being Big 12 brethren is going to be awesome. And hey, a lot of credit to BYU. They are continuing to get it done. You lose Zach Wilson last year, you lose some other really talented players, and you think, okay, they're going to take a step back. And we'll see over the next few weeks, but they are still a very formidable and good football team, and by no means do I think that that's just an automatic W. Like maybe I thought, when Zach Wilson goes to the draft, I'm like, okay, well that should probably turn into a Baylor win if they're better, but not so fast. I mean, they're very legit.
By the way, from our friend in Zambia, Candy Kandawire. Candy Kandawire is he's visiting Zambia from Houston, visiting family. I love the show.
No,
I can't afford
Candy, but with a T.
Yeah,
Tandy.
So, Tandy.
Yeah, Tandy.
Yeah.
Kandawire. We hope I got that right. He's visiting family from Houston, but he's a huge Iowa State fan. Says he can't go anywhere. Wants to listen to the show. Baylor Brigham Young needs to be the Holy War, and the prize is the Holy Grail from Shooter TX. All right. Go ahead.
I think they'll, there's with the new rivalries that'll be popping up. I wouldn't be surprised to see some gain some nicknames or, maybe even a little trophy, years down the line, something like that. And BYU Baylor, of all the different combinations you could put together of maybe Cincinnati and Iowa State will be a rivalry, or this team and that team will be a rivalry. I think BYU and Baylor makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons.
And in celebration, all the bars will close at 9 p.m.
Yeah, everything will shut down after 9 p.m.
All right, let's see. From Joey Foster, West Virginia, he's happy. Jeff Grimm, kind of, he knows Alabama wasn't flawless, although he's a huge Roll Tide fan.
Roll Tide.
A lot of let's try to check off some of these. From John Kelly on the chat room, 110,000 fans at Happy Valley, a massive army. Michael North, I don't know about that. They are both good, talking about Fresno State and Cincinnati if they were to play. Badger and Bournemouth fan. What was the famous Fresno State coach name when they first got better? Was it Pat Hill? Was it Pat Hill who was the coach at Fresno State? They were tough. They could play you. From Day Old Donuts, Fresno. We had a lot of Fresno love today. Would stomp a mud hole in Cincinnati. What fantasy ride is that? I do need to be drunk before I step onto the attraction. Let's see. From Scotty B on Baylor, I would say the pass rush is so far the biggest weakness for Baylor, but hopefully they get better as the season progresses. Back and forth again. Here's
I was
from
looking
Kenny.
to see if there was much of a Fresno State-Cincy rivalry. They've played twice before.
Okay.
And they're both they're 1-1 in those games. Fresno State won the last contest back in 2010, and the first meeting was in 2000. Yeah, so they played 2 years in a row and have never played outside of that.
Doesn't Cincy play Notre Dame here pretty soon? In a couple of weeks. From Kenny J. McBride, I've been on multiple sites, but why was Auburn ranked? They were 6-5 last year, beat Akron and Alabama State to start the year. This was about selling the game for ABC. Well, I don't know if they should have been ranked, but they played Penn State straight up. It was a hell of a game. How many SEC teams play non-conference games on the road against somebody from the Big Ten? I know Tennessee and Oklahoma have had a history. I know LSU and Texas were supposed to have that. Are there? I mean, Alabama's going to – they play some neutral games too.
Yeah, I don't know. Auburn – I was
Georgia,
surprised that
Clemson.
Auburn was ranked. They're not like they were ranked 7th or anything. They were, in the 20s. So,
yeah,
the
22, yeah.
They're barely hanging on. They dropped, but they're still in there.
You want to go to the Aranda comment here, Jack? Is that right? Okay. So you were asking about the Baylor pass rush, and there's more chat and also text to get to.
But, yeah, I think with Auburn that, that's a fair question to ask why they were ranked ahead of time. And I do think that that's why these preseason rankings and stuff, they just set up these matchups, and that's why I can't get fully invested in them, even though they do end up mattering. They just don't matter as much as the college football playoff rankings. But I think to Auburn's credit, they justified that ranking. Whether you thought they deserved it or not, they certainly justified it after that game against Penn State. So that's if you're a War Eagle person, then you feel better about that. But yeah, the reason why, I don't know. I don't know exactly, but SEC's got their own. They got like a third of the top 25 now at this point.
We know why. They are Auburn, and even at 6-5 last year, in some cases, Penn State was 0-5 last year, if I remember correctly. How could you be downplaying Cincinnati? They took the struggle bus and still beat Indiana. From Gary Lewis, Cincy, Fresno State, or Fresno State, Minnesota would be a great matchup. The national media has been a bit slow to the Big 12, not named Oklahoma and Iowa State this season.
I think there's just not anything to really sink your teeth into just yet with the Big 12. There's a lot of question marks, man. Iowa State's looks shaky at times. Texas has obviously looked shaky. Every single team you can look at and point to at least one game where they've looked a little bit shaky. And maybe not Kansas State, because they lost their quarterback and still, ended up with a win this weekend, but they've got big questions remaining. But yeah, I think it's already built in to kind of not give them the credit that there's just sort of an afterthought anyways. But I think they, especially in that conference, have to improve way more to crack the top 25 than teams in certain other conferences.
No question about it. They do. Utah last year was one of the top Pac-12 teams. Of course, Brigham Young's beaten Arizona and Arizona State now, right? And they have Baylor in Waco, and they beat Utah as well. Oklahoma and Ohio State, Dale Butler, are both overrated. Aggies and Arkansas won't be as close as some think. Aggies win 31-17. The O dominant is better. The D dominates, better quarterback. Our quarterback is better. New guys on the offensive line. I've been impressed with what I've seen from Arkansas, though. They've got
Baylor offense.
Yeah,
is what it is. The Browse offense.
They've got something to them now. Again, A&M's got an elite defense, and it was good. Calzada was able to kind of gain a little bit of confidence against New Mexico. I know still he had a chance to enjoy some success, and then they could kind of shut it down.
If you ask Jimbo Fisher, they were very average against New Mexico, which I think is a good thing. A&M needs to not drink their Kool-Aid as long as they can.
Oh, I think the quarterback situation allows them to not drink any Kool-Aid.
Yeah, and that's true. But he knows it, though. He also knows the history of that, university in that place. As soon as there's any optimism, they grind it into a powder and snort it off a toilet seat like Vince Neil behind the stage at the Motley Crue concert. Yeah. They need to not do that. They need to let the season play out. And
the old 1-0 thing?
Yeah.
That's what they need to do, 1-0.
Good to see DeMoss, the big, highly touted wide receiver, finally, making some plays, had the big, long catch and ended up at exactly 100 yards as a result of that big, long catch. But yeah, they are a little bit shakier than you may have expected with that Haynes King injury. But got the win. That's all you can do, right? And then move on from there. But going back to BYU, it is amazing. Their first 3 wins are all Pac-12 teams: Arizona, Utah, and Arizona State. And both Utah and Arizona State were ranked. So they got 2 top 25 wins. They're 3-0 against the Pac-12. Overall in the year. That's pretty crazy.
3-10. Fresno State game was no surprise. So many knew it in advance. And he makes a great comment. If you made a chart of the most Pac-12 thing to ever happen, the most UCLA thing to ever happen, the intersection would be the moment they finally win national respect and they lay an egg to Fresno. And you're right. When we come back, Dave Aranda on the pass rush, and also Apu, and also a little bit later on, Billy Embody on SMU's miracle win against La Tech.
I know what I wanted to say. I had a thought and I lost it. We were talking about Arkansas and that Baylor offense, the Browse offense. Ole Miss is the one that's got the Browse offense rolling like a mofo right now, and Lane Kiffin's getting all the credit for it. But Jeff Lebby, another former Baylor assistant, they've got that thing rocking, and now the quarterback's the Heisman frontrunner after 3 weeks. So that's another offense that has been on fire as of late. I just didn't want to forget that.
Lane Kiffin will continue to take that credit.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's me.
No, yeah.
When we come back, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, David Smoak, Jack McKenzie runs the mothership. We appreciate all of you. And this is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. They got the summer savings going on at Richard Carr. They had the Labor Day savings event just a couple of weeks back as we were celebrating Labor Day, of course. And they've continued that throughout the rest of the month over at Richard Carr. That's right. That means you can take advantage of great deals that are on the lot with both new and pre-owned cars right now at Richard Carr, and take advantage of those Labor Day savings while they still last here over about another 10 days or so. So they are loaded right now with premium pre-owned cars and trucks over at Richard Carr. Each one of them, the pre-owns, goes through a 172-point inspection before being parked on the lot. And with dozens of lenders, Richard Carr wants to say yes when others say no, as 100% credit approval is always their goal. Among their offerings, they've got the Cadillacs, the ultimate American luxury vehicles, sophisticated looks, powerful and exhilarating drive. At Rich Carr Cadillac, you can find the right caddy for you, whether it's a smooth and powerful CT4 sedan starting at only $33,395, or perhaps you're more into the XT4, the XT5, or the XT6 lineup of SUVs in the style and size to fit your lifestyle. You can check all those models out over at Richard Carr. And if you're looking for something specific, the right car or truck, but you can't find it, well, they can put you first in line for the many cars and trucks that'll be coming their way over the next few weeks. Get your name on the priority list right now to get the perfect vehicle for yourself as soon as they show up. And Richard Carr, for those here in the greater Waco area, are your local hometown dealership. Give them a chance to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes on new cars and trucks, and superior service after the sale. And they can have you show up at the dealership and take a test drive like normal operations, or because of their great customer service, they can bring the test drive to you. So let them bring the test drive to you, or come by and see the Yellow Tag Labor Day savings all throughout the rest of the month at Richard Carr. They are owned, operated, and run by loyal and proud Baylor Bears.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. In a long business meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's Group meal.
Next in line.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Grant Dideker, under the umbrella of Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. When you contact people about insurance, and people are hit up with it all the time, what do you tell them? What do you say? I know you say you educate, but Texas Farm Bureau Insurance is obviously successful for a lot of different reasons.
Right.
And has hundreds of thousands.
Well, it's personal service. Okay. It's one-on-one service. Just yesterday, went to a client's house, met with the couple, went over all the coverages, and they said, wow, we've, never had this before. We've had this different insurance and that different insurance, but we've never had somebody actually come to the house and go over everything with us. And wow, we really appreciate that, especially this day and time where it's just a click of a button and you really don't know who you're dealing with. It's a different person you call every time you call that 800 number. You don't know who your agent is. Now they have a face with the name, and it's more personal service.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. If someone wants to contact you, just straight on your cell phone?
Yep, 254-265-0442.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, a McLennan County agent.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
All right, here's a text from Shooter TX. By the way, on Arkansas, give Kendall Briles the credit for adjusting his offense to fit the talent at Arkansas, smart play calling, and the lane train was fueled by Kendall at FAU and now by Levy at Ole Miss.
Sure was.
Next, Kiffin will get a blue blood job, and Monty as his new offensive coordinator, or maybe even the man who invented all of that himself in CAB. That's from Shooter TX. We appreciate the text.
Yeah, Lane Kiffin hired Kendall at a time when Kendall was probably a bit of a toxic name still, just because people didn't know what to make of the whole situation at Baylor at the time. I think all those coaches have now moved well on past that point, and that's all come to conclusion as well. So that's not lingering over their heads anymore. But yeah, Kendall was the big grab by Lane Kiffin, and he basically soaked up that Briles offense and, combined it with what he already did as an offensive mastermind as well. And now he obviously likes that offense because he then had Jeff Levy and shoot, he had Randy Clements as his O-line coach last year, which I guess was a good move for them getting rid of him because they're doing really well right now. So we were confused by that at the time, but whatever change they made has been for the better. And yeah, I mean they're They're looking like, RG3 and the rest of the kids back in the day, in like 2011, just up and down the field, throwing it every way imaginable, running it down your throats. I mean, it's the Baylor Briles, or I got to say it's the Briles offense. The Briles offense to a high level just in the SEC now.
And if I'm a school, Randy Clements is, out there right now on the beach, but if I'm a school that wants to run that offense and I need my offensive line to understand it and be able to be versatile, that's the only guy I'm calling. If I'm trying to run that offense and my offensive line is the problem, Randy Clements is the only guy I'm calling.
Yeah.
And then if he says no, then I might ask him, like, you don't want it,
if he says no,
who else do you know?
Who would you suggest?
Who would you suggest? Yeah. Because that's who I want. That's my first call. He is as good of a position coach as there is in college football, and no one will ever convince me differently. He is fantastic.
Well, if Baylor's offensive running game does continue to produce, now again, not expected to continue this against who they're about to play, but if let's say they are just a lot marketably better, better, not just like because of last year, because last year is hard to compare to. They were so bad. Eric Mateos and Jeff Grimes could be that wide zone type version as well. Not that they're the only ones, but with what they've done is truly incredible. When you see Khalil Keith running down the field 45 or 50 yards, or when we saw Tyquan Thornton with R.J. Sneed, those are players who have bought into each other, not just what they do as a system. Not just what they do as a system. All right, we have Dave Aranda. This is a short bite, Paul. Jack, this is a question I asked Dave Aranda earlier today. Apu missed the game against Texas Southern. He then came back against Kansas. A lot of people asking me, and we all were like, you expect him to make a couple of plays, the line of scrimmage. Sometimes we also expect big guys like that because we heard so much about him, the hype. Sometimes he's not making plays, but he's allowing others around him. But he's not quite there in a lot of ways. Here's Dave Aranda.
Improving. I think conditioning, there's still room to improve. I think Chidi has come a long ways. He's a guy that's really put in a lot of effort and worked hard, and I think he's earned playing time. And so there's some playing time with him, partly because of what he's earned, and partly because rotation there right now best serves us. But then I also think with Apu, his ability to play bump combos. So say the offense is running inside zones. So as a defender, I'm getting hands on a center, and then the guard is going to, from an adjacent side, is going to work to bump me, right? And so it's a downhill block for a downhill run that follows. I think our offense is a wide zone offense, so we don't really rep that. We don't play that. Everything's going this way, And so I think in times, Apu can kind of get in a track stance and his best version of that and get vertical and blow stuff up, whereas when stuff's coming downhill at you, you've got to play with hands and a base and technique and all of it. And so I think coming to grips with that, coming to grips with low pad level and just fundamental things, play after play after play, and like we talked about earlier, playing within the scheme, playing within the confines of what we're asking, I think he will continue to have success and see more time.
All right, that's Dave Aranda on Apu. And when he was asked a question about is he still not quite able to make some of the plays, because we had heard so much, not just coaches, but also the players, about the difference he was going to make.
Well, I'll say this: Dave Aranda is not a great. He's not a great coach if you are wanting like nuggets to tweet out during a press conference. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that he says that's just succinct enough that's like, oh, that's a great one-liner to throw out there. But he's fun to listen to and just break things down, and he gets super into it and super detailed. And, man, it's just cool to see him so much more relaxed and comfortable now than he was last year, which, I mean, everybody was uncomfortable last year. But his personality is he's clearly opened up quite a bit from where he was a year ago.
No question.
And he's the antithesis of Briles. Briles would give you like a quick little.
Oh, he's the best for Twitter.
Here we go. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. Catchphrase, go.
Yeah, you heard times at the Big 12 Media Days. He won Big 12 Media Days with one-liners and stuff like that. Paul, let's take a call. Billy Embody's about to join us about SMU as they play TCU this week.
Dana in Boulder, Colorado. You're on Sikkim 365 Radio. Thanks for your call.
Yeah, this is a Great Dane from Boulder, Colorado. How are y'all?
We're doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, I called you guys a couple times, but Texas Tech, I think I couldn't believe the population explosion. Over 48,000 student body now. Incredible. And then yet we're kind of thrown out the pasture, I think, as like West Texas is like kind of crappy and all that. And I grew up in Houston Memorial. I went to school there, moved to Boulder, Colorado. I think I did quite fine for myself. So a lot of great alumni there and all that. So I just want to throw that out at you guys.
Dane, thanks for your call. And, yeah, I wonder, part of that might just be Texas Tech. I think they get kind of lost in the tumbleweed, so to speak, and pun intended there, because their athletic department has been somewhat inconsistent over the long haul. You know, they have these flashes. You know, Chris Beard gets them to the Final Four, and then Chris Beard goes. But that's part of the problem. Craig, you talked about it last week. You know, a coach is good at Texas Tech, and then somebody like Texas hires them.
Yeah.
So if they could have some sustainability out there, again, I think people kind of get lost in this college is in this place and it sucks, so nobody wants to go there. Well, 48,000 people want to go there. So that's not the case. Most college towns, if you really look at the college town, suck as towns go as for things to do, because it's a college town. It's supposed to be a college town. So, you know, if you have the right leadership, it does not matter where you are. You could be Moon University, and if Moon University had the right leadership, they'd kick everybody's ass.
Yeah, you know, I lived in Lubbock for a couple of years at that age, and it's a fantastic town if you're wanting to have college activities. It really is. It doesn't matter that it's out in the middle of nowhere. Now, as far as like getting there and leaving there and trying to get other places that you want to get to, that's a bit of a pain, no doubt. That's a lot of driving and not a whole lot of sightseeing and just more driving to get to like Dallas or wherever you're trying to go. But no, yeah, it's out there kind of on its own island in some ways as far as compared to most of the schools around the state. But, hey, they deserve credit for a 3-0 start. You know, got it done against FIU this past weekend. That win against Houston in the week number 1 matchup was a big-time come-from-behind win for them. We haven't seen them, face I guess Houston was a good test out of the gates, but we haven't seen them enough. I just think, here's my thing with Texas Tech. I don't know what to make of them. Like, Tyler Shuck's a good quarterback, but he also has his downside. They've got a lot of great skill players, but that's pretty typical. O-line's fine, hit or miss. Defense is good, it's solid, but there's nothing that's just, this is Texas Tech. You know, like it used to be, you knew who they were.
Yep,
you knew it was
Mike
Leach, they had an identity, and now they're just a team that's not the air raid. They're not, they're just a team, and they don't have a real identity, and that's why I think most people probably just don't know what to say about them, quite frankly.
Well, they could gain a little identity because they open up their conference against Texas on the road against UT, and they've been vulnerable, and why not, right? I don't
think there's an overwhelming favorite.
No, there's not. Texas is probably favored by 8 to 12. I don't know what the point. That doesn't matter, but that's why I think all 4 games have intrigue to it. Iowa State at Baylor. Is Baylor as good as they have looked so far? Iowa State, we know, are they going to truly try to win a Big 12 title and actually do it? West Virginia, Oklahoma. West Virginia coming off the great win against Tech. And Oklahoma, kind of at times okay. Texas Tech, what Craig just said, UT, they hammered Rice, okay. But they got pounded by Arkansas. And then Kansas State looked good, and Oklahoma State looked okay. They got the kind of a bonus call or two. But they did win at Boise State, and that's not an easy place to play.
Yeah, we'll learn a lot this weekend for sure. And, I think you did make a move up. Lubbock was cool while I was there, but I think Boulder would be a lot better. So, yeah, congrats to you on that move.
When we come back, SMU has been amazing and had a great win against La Tech. They now have a challenge of playing TCU, and Tanner Mordecai faces that Gary Patterson defense. And that's next on Sikkim 365 Ready. Billy Umbody will join us next. PettyClinicalOT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be. How? Go to his website, PettyClinicalOT.com. Contact them, email or phone call. Tell them I sent you. Tell them Smokey sent you, and he'll set you up to get your blood work. He'll get the lab results. If your testosterone level's too low, he can give you the option of being on or in a program that helps raise your testosterone levels so you can become the high-performance man that you used to be, need to be, and you want to be, right? All of the above. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, sleep, sex drive, and even focus or energy. All of that can go wrong. He can help you out. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Ram Power Days are going on now at Allen Samuels with the new 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star with total values up to $7,000 or 2.9% for 72 months. The 1500 Lone Star Quad Crew Cab offers style and dependability for any job. It's the Ram Power Days going on now at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by, let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
4 touchdown passes so far. 6 seconds to go. Mordecai going to step up. One last play. Throw to the end zone. Into the end zone. Knocked around and caught. It is caught. Reggie Robertson with the deflection and the touchdown. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Tanner Mordecai had a monster game his first week. Good game last week. Another monster game. Getting all sorts of national awards and more to come. And Billy Embuddy covers SMU and also even LSU for 247 Sports and joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Billy, this is kind of a magical start. I know TCU's one hell of a challenge this week, but what's it like right now on the hilltop?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, watching that game on replay, I had a COVID rescheduled wedding. So, of course, that game, you get one of those magical ones that you wish you watched start to finish in person. But rewatching it yesterday, you just, think about what SMU had to do getting the ball back with under a minute to go and driving down the field and the clock management and all the plays they put together at the end to have that shot. But it came down to practice. And, they practiced that play and doing it just like that with Rashee Rice, tipping the ball up in the air if it didn't look like, he was going to be able to make a catch on it, and it worked out, and that's why they spaced themselves out. So the Hail Mary is really just a result of practice and kind of execution and everything, falling into place. But it's a fun time to be covering the team with them going into TCU week 3-0. That was kind of the hope with as much talent they had offensively coming back, with Tanner Mordecai taking over and Jim Leavitt becoming the new defensive coordinator, installing his scheme. It's a veteran group. You need a little bit of faith to put together a special season, Sonny Dykes kind of said after the game. And they got a little bit of faith. They were thwarted in the red zone at the 1 yard line, I believe 2-3 times against Louisiana Tech. But, they stuck with it and, made enough plays to be one score away, and it came out on top. Lots to clean up, but it was an unreal finish and an unreal game watching it.
Billy, how well do you think they match up with TCU now that we've seen 3 games out of both teams?
I was kind of intrigued that it was a 10-point opening spread for this SMU-TCU game. SMU plays fairly well against TCU, actually in Fort Worth as of late, believe it or not. And, I think they match up really well. The last 2 weeks, SMU's kind of been the other team's Super Bowl with North Texas coming to Dallas, and then, Louisiana Tech facing its old coach from years and years back, and they were fired up. And this week it's SMU's turn to kind of be that, team that really can come in and spoil TCU's season. And it's a game that, a few years back, the athletes on SMU's side certainly weren't the same as TCU's. And I don't think top to bottom SMU is probably as talented, at least on paper, but, in the starters and probably for the most part the 2 deep, they've got a ton of talent. And if this offensive line can hold up, and they look a lot better against Louisiana Tech than they did the first 2 weeks, that's kind of the X factor. And if they could run the ball like they did against Louisiana Tech, against TCU, which is a tall task against Gary Patterson's defense, this one has a chance to go SMU's way. They have the offense certainly to do it. They can capitalize on red zone opportunities. That's kind of been the one area I think they wanted to see a little bit more improvement this year, and they just haven't executed. The plays have kind of been there to be made, and especially against Louisiana Tech. I mean, that game was one where you had a false start on the one and a substitution error and this and that, and it was just kind of choppy for them in the red zone. And if they can clean all that up, and when they get those opportunities in the red zone, on Saturday, that's where they've got a chance to, put touchdowns on the board instead of field goals. And if they don't turn the ball over either in the red zone, I mean, that's how that game's going to be won or lost, in my opinion.
Billy, as you know, we know Tanner Mordecai pretty well. He had the monster debut with the 7 touchdown passes. Week 2, a lot shakier, but, still a very manageable win, and obviously a big performance, including the Hail Mary this past week. What have you thought about Mordecai through 3 games as SMU's QB1?
I think the big thing for me is he's still settling in, and that's kind of a bright spot if you think about it. Shane Buechele came in, and even though he enrolled in the spring or in the summer before his season got underway in 2019, he really came in and was on for the most part right away, outside of his very first throw, which was an interception. But that's another story. And he just brings that accuracy. And I think Tanner has a little bit more of the talent to be a bit more of a playmaker, which SMU needs from the quarterback position with where the team is at, with the amount of receivers that they have that can make plays. But he's just got to develop that consistency a little bit more. And I think he's been tough as nails. he's shown some athleticism. They got him out running around a little bit more this week and did some designed runs, and he took off with the ball and picked up some key first downs. But I still think they're finding their way together with this receiving core, and that's kind of the thing that's exciting if you're an SMU fan is, Shane Buechele came in and they were just dropping bombs to Reggie Robertson down the field and, doing all these things. And SMU's deep passing game hasn't exactly clicked just yet, these past 2 games especially. And so if they can get that figured out and they can hit the deep ball, that's where things are really kind of going to get scary because the intermediate routes for Tanner Mordecai have been money. And they've been picking up yards and making big plays in that respect and letting his receivers go and make those plays. But if they can make TCU, for example, defend all of the field, I mean, that's going to open up a lot. And he's been excellent, though. I mean, that's what, as they took the quarterback competition really into fall camp, and he stepped up and really took that next step in the last 2 weeks. You've kind of seen this improvement. And he's dealt with some adversity last week, dealt with a little bit this week in a way. But overall, he's been money for them so far.
Well, I got to ask you because TCU, we know kind of what Gary Patterson does defensively, but they added this diamond running back in Zach Evans, who had a hell of a first game, 190 yards or whatever it was, and we know how explosive he's going to be. How have the Mustangs been against the run so far?
Yeah, I mean, I remember Zach Evans. It was quite the recruitment and quite the path to TCU for him. But he is looking exactly like that 5-star that we saw. And, for SMU, their defense has been good against the run, but they've also had those moments that we've seen from them in the past where, the tackling isn't where it needs to be. And, you miss a gap here or you miss a tackle and, the big plays there. I think they've limited some of the big gashing plays that we've seen in the past in the run game. They're still kind of adjusting in the pass game. I mean, college football offenses these days just seems like every corner on an island at times gets picked on and gets beat. But, in the run game, SMU's kind of been able to slow some of those explosive plays. And at times, Louisiana Tech kind of got cooking. But overall, I thought SMU's run defense was pretty good against them. And, Zach Evans is a different animal. TCU's got much better athletes and physicality up front in the offensive line and in the trenches. But, it's been good so far. I mean, they have a rotation of guys that they can bring in there that I think they feel confident. And one thing I picked up from Jim Leavitt talking to him last week before the Louisiana Tech game is they're still evaluating guys. And I think these first 3 weeks, as much as SMU fans are kind of hyped going into this season, wanted them to just roll and blow out teams. Jim Leavitt's still finding his guys and finding the guys he wants to give the most snaps to. And after 3 weeks and against, a kind of tough offenses to defend the last 2, I think he's going to finally have his plan and stick with it, and we'll see kind of what they come up with.
Hey, Billy, with all the realignment stuff that's going on, there's been obviously 4 teams added to the Big 12 here in the next few years that'll all occur, and the Big 12 has pretty much said, hey, we're still around looking. What has the conversation, if any, been like in terms of SMU, and how do you feel like they are viewed or would be viewed in the grand scheme of potentially moving in this realignment fiasco?
Yeah, I think right now it's pretty quiet. I think the big thing that they have to do before they can be considered is win the conference. And if you can't do that, you want to be optimistic if you're a fan or a supporter or a booster or whatever. But the fact is that Houston, UCF, Cincinnati all won the conference. All have been to New Year's Six bowls, done that, undefeated seasons. UCF, of course, quote unquote national champions and things like that. That all of that matters the most. And while you can put the pieces together, if you're SMU trying to approach the Big 12 or vice versa, well, it's another Dallas team, and it makes the Texas base better, and adds this or that, or academically, or history, or Southwest Conference ties, all those things, and the program's trending up with recruiting and on the field play for the most part. You've got to win, and you've got to win big, and that's what they haven't really done. The 10-win season a couple years back was nice. That was a step in the right direction, and COVID kind of hurt them because I think they probably could have beat TCU last year. I mean, the way that team was built early on in the year, especially. But they didn't get that opportunity. It was a weird year, and this is the year they've got to win big and win the conference. Quite honestly.
Billy, thank you very much. Tanner Mordecai with a Hail Mary. We just played the video and from the American Athletic Conference.
Who just announced that Commissioner Michael Resco has signed a new deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right to the day where all his teams leave.
Yes, yeah, up until that time. Billy, good stuff. Maybe on again later on, and who knows with what happens with TCU and then with what you do covering Ed Orgeron and LSU as the season progresses. Appreciate it as always.
Anytime, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Billy Embody, again, 247 Sports covers SMU and also LSU. We got to take a break. Go ahead.
3-year extension for Mike Oresco as AAC commissioner through June 2025.
All right, they're trying to stabilize that. He's trying to save the conference like Bob Bowlesby was trying to save the Big 12, like Kliakov is trying to make the Pac-12 better, and everyone else trying to do what they do. When we come back, Ryan Leaf. Yep, that's Ryan Leaf. He'll be next. He spoke to the West Virginia football team today. He's got a message about life, but also about Baylor. He's done a couple of their games, and he's next on Sikkim 365 Radio.
All right, we don't have a lot of time here, so I'll keep it simple. BetUS.com. If you were going to bet on sports this weekend, look, they've got action on pretty much every sport across the world, so they pretty much got your game. But if you're going to do it, let's go promo code SICKM125, SICKM200, 125, 125% bonus on a deposit of $100 or more on a cash deposit and 200% on crypto. So if you use crypto, 200%. If you use cash, 125. Promo code SICKM125 and SICKM200. And BetUS offers those big retail bonuses to keep their players betting longer. And the BetUS loyalty program is legendary by keeping their players up to date with articles, players, team stats, and trends, giving you the right tools to make the best wagering decisions. BetUS.com. Use promo code SICKM125 or SICKM200.
It's Baylor football season, and as always, Berg Colgin Ford supports the green and gold. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgin Ford. It's time for team celebrations and BU touchdowns. Berg Colgin Ford is your home team when it comes to trucks and tailgates. Ford has the perfect truck for you to host a top-ranked tailgate party. Here's to a winning season for our hometown Bears. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sick 'em Bears.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
All right, we're back. Ryan Leaf, who's done the games for Baylor football this year and, of course, has a great message about life in general and his experience with college football and pro football, joins us now on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Ryan, I obviously want to get into Baylor, but I saw the note just now that you were invited by Neil Brown. They had a huge win against Virginia Tech to speak at West Virginia with your message. How much do you enjoy that, and how therapeutical is it for you as well?
Well, first off, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure to be able to call those Baylor games the last couple of weeks and spend some time in Waco. Yeah, coaches have asked me to come speak to their teams, and it's given me a purpose. And I think that for the longest time I was so lost without a purpose, because I thought the only thing I could be was a football player, and I was so tied up in that identity. But, my purpose is about trying to be of service and trying to be there for other human beings who may be struggling or who have family that may be struggling. I never want anybody to be as miserable as I was at that lowest point. And so these wonderful leaders of men who work at these universities and coach these young student athletes, they give me the most amazing opportunity to be part of the solution. And I tell the kids when I'm done speaking that they had a hand in saving my life today. And I don't know if they fully understand the truth behind that, but it continues to be a reward in itself for me.
Ryan, you've gotten to see Baylor the last couple of weeks. Last year, I know they haven't played world beaters or anything like that, but this is a team last year that could not push anybody off the ball if they were playing a six-man team, a peewee team, or anybody. What have you seen growth-wise from this offense under Jeff Grimes?
Well, not only Jeff Grimes, but I just think like the identity of Dave Aranda has just multiplied throughout this team. That physical, kind of even-keeled nature of the team, and they're very, very physical. And that takes on the mindset of not only Dave Aranda, but Jeff Grimes. And they've been special. They really have. Now, to your point, they haven't necessarily played anybody, and this week's test against the Cyclones is going to be every bit the battle. But I don't care who you're playing, the way they've been able to operate, the efficiency, the way that they went into halftime last week only up 7 to have like a come to Jesus conversation in there about what they needed to accomplish in the second half and absolutely getting it done. Those are meaningful. Those are meaningful wins. And I'm excited to see them showcase themselves this week. My buddy Joe Davis and Brock Heward have the call, and I've talked to both of them, having covered them, the Bears the last 2 weeks. So they're excited for it too.
Ryan, as a quarterback yourself, I mean, Gary Bohannon was sitting back the last couple years behind Charlie Brewer, won the competition this summer, and so far it's been pretty good in this scheme with Jeff Grimes. He's shown a strong arm, he's shown running ability, and he's getting some blocking up front too, which helps a lot. But what have been your impressions of Gary Bohannon for a guy who hasn't started any games but has now got 3 under his belt?
Yeah, really poised. He's become the leader. Coach talked to us about what he's doing on his own with the rest of his team. He's putting together player-only film sessions on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday nights with different positions on the team. He's really taken on that leadership role, and he can do so much with his arm as well as with his feet. I think he makes him a very dynamic player. But I loved the jump he made after week 1 against Texas State. He didn't take any shots down the field. There were guys that were open. He just didn't let it fly. He got some constructive criticism from the coaching staff and everybody, and say, hey, you're our guy. We trust you. Trust what you see with your eyes and let it rip. And sure enough, in week 2 against Texas Southern, and as well as last week, he was incredibly accurate. He was very focused and intense on letting that ball fly when he needed to. And that second half was a great example of that.
Ryan, this is from a text that I just received that we get from our callers and listeners. Ryan Leaf has quickly become one of the best color analysts out there. His knowledge of the game is tremendous, comes out during the games. I was glad to see his name attached to the broadcast of the Kansas game. You haven't been able to do this for very long. You feel pretty comfortable. You played the game at both levels. Your thoughts about just your broadcast career and how it's going?
Well, it's I majored in broadcasting at Washington State at the prestigious Murrow Communications School, so I always knew I wanted to go that route. When I retired from the NFL, the last thing I wanted to be was in a newsroom because I had such a contentious relationship with the media. But football, gave me everything, and therefore I love being around it. In particular, college football. And so, about 3 years ago, I really decided what I wanted to do, and so I reached out to some guys that I really respected, Joel Klatt, Brady Quinn, Kirk Herbstreit, Greg McElroy, guys that were doing the job that I really wanted to do, and I thought that would be the best kind of, living to make. And I went out and shadowed those guys for about a year, and then I got an opportunity to start doing some studio and game analysis. And then 3 years ago, ESPN hired me, and I got a great group of games in 2019. Of course, took the year off last year because of COVID. Really missed it, and this year I've spent most of my season in the Big 12, and I've really enjoyed it. Haven't been to a lot of these places in the Big 12, and I was really excited about it. I get to go to Stillwater for the first time this weekend for the big matchup between Kansas State and Oklahoma State. So I enjoy doing it. It reminds me a lot of watching football games with my dad, and we'd sit on the couch, and he would kind of be the play-by-play guy. He would tell me what the down and distance was, what the situation of the game was, and when the play was over, I would have analysis for him, and it really makes me feel like I'm having that relationship with my dad, with my play-by-play, and that's why I think it makes it seem so comfortable with whoever I'm working with.
Ryan, let me tell you, this is going to sound like a weird thing, but I will tell you the best thing about Oklahoma State's stadium, which is fantastic, T-Mobile Big Ticket Stadium, fantastic, is that it's the nicest media bathroom I've ever been in my life. And I think it's because when he was still alive that Mr. Pickens used to use that bathroom.
Yeah.
So you have to make it billionaire quality. So
gold toilet?
You'll be excited to go in there when you have to.
Well, that's good to know. I appreciate that because I called the Fresno State game a couple years ago, and we were on top of the stadium in like this shipping container, and I don't believe there was a restroom anywhere. So I know and love when these booths, and all the booths in the Big 12 have been amazing. TCU's, Baylor's, Kansas, everybody. It's been pretty nice.
What do you make of Iowa State's start to the season, Ryan? Brock Purdy's been a little hit or miss. The offense, last week they got it going on just fine, but it's been a little bit of a struggle. Obviously that Iowa loss was not a mark they wanted this early, but they kind of started this way last year as well and ended up in the Big 12 title game. Too quick to panic, or just what have been your observations on the Cyclones?
Yeah, I would say I'd say it's too quick to panic, but I've also will say, hey, be aware. I have them not as high as everybody else does. I think I have them at 21 in my top 25 this week, in which I have Baylor at 22. So I think it's a pretty even matchup. The fact that they get to play in Waco, and I love the explosive nature of the offense, and I think the difference maker, which I think a lot of people would have thought would have been Bryce Purdy a year ago, I think could be Gary Bohannon in this game. They run the ball well. They can use play action and protect him. I think he'll be able to take shots down the field, and as we know, the defense is spectacular. Jalen Petrie and everybody flying around, making big plays. I like the Bears this weekend.
You brought something up on a lot of times people look at what happens now with the Big 12 and the SEC and what Texas and Oklahoma are about to do, and we know what that did for the last couple of 3 months. But the teams that have won, A&M, TCU, and Baylor, of those three, Baylor's been through 4 head coaches. They've had, of course, the issue with the scandal. They were 1-11. They were 2-7. How impressive do you think it is, Ryan, that they continue to beat at that door, to find a way to keep kind of coming back from sometimes some downtimes?
Well, I simply think after the Art Briles tenure, they just hired good coaches, right? Matt Rule was exceptional in what he did, and I think the opportunity for Mack Rhoades to go out and hire Dave Aranda 2 years ago is the big reason why. I think, Mack being the guy he is, he has a great eye for talent, an understanding of how they're going to motivate and be welcomed into that community. And I think that's a big reason why, football-wise. They may have some ups and downs, but they've been predominantly at the top. And like you said, they have a better winning percentage in the state of Texas than the team that's going to the SEC and the Texas Longhorns. So, I would be almost of the mindset like, yeah, good riddance. You're not gonna help out things with your program going to the SEC where you have a less chance to win than you did here in the Big 12, and we'll pick up the slack.
Ryan, being as familiar as you are with Pac-12 football, Oregon's kind of head and shoulders above right now. There's been some nice wins along the way, but some brutal losses as well. What are your thoughts on the state of the Pac-12 and just kind of the pecking order as it stands with Oregon and then, just a kind of a bunch of other teams at the moment?
Well, I think that the Pac-12's been searching for this for a few years, right? They've been so darn competitive from top to bottom. They've kind of ate their own. I call it the conference of cannibalism. They just beat each other up all year long and then don't get into the college football playoff. And it's viewed from everybody outside as an irrelevant conference, when I think it's probably has been one of the most competitive conferences every single year. They just haven't had an elite team. They haven't had a Clemson. They haven't had an Oklahoma to win because if that team wins the whole conference and dominates, it doesn't matter how mediocre the rest of the conference is. Everybody talks about the Big 12 or the ACC as a good conference. And I think Oregon finally may be the cream rising to the top with what Mario Cristobal has put together. Now they have a really good shot. They got 9 conference games ahead of them, which is a brutal, brutal path to go through. They have to go to UCLA in a couple weeks. But by beating Ohio State on a national TV level in the early window where everybody got to see. I think that was a huge statement for this program. They did it without their best defensive players too. I think it's huge. If they're able to run the table or even make it through there with one little stumble and win the Pac-12 championship, I don't see why not that this team doesn't belong in the college football playoff. They are extremely talented and superbly well coached.
What are your thoughts, Ryan, and last question I have, about college football in general with the way things are, the concerns that there might be, the mega power conferences, rivalries, some of them are disappearing, some of them not. We understand it's about money, power, egos. What are your thoughts about where college football might be going?
Well, I think this was inevitable. You know, it is, to your point, all about money. But there's still something to be said about the innocence of college football, just the feeling of that. We saw it Saturday night at Penn State with the whiteout, just the atmosphere in a big game like that. I think what college football, even though it's getting to be more of a money conglomerate, it's really coming back to its roots in terms of small town atmosphere with big time college programs. The likes of USC living in Los Angeles or other big cities that have college football teams. I don't think that's the future. I really think to keep the innocence, it's going to be about the small town atmosphere and the big college program that makes a difference. And I'm all for that. Now, if we get to a place where there's a mega conference where there's 40 teams and are lined up like the NFL with two conferences, I suspect we'll probably get to there at some point, which will make the NCAA obsolete. We'll have a governing body for this because that's where all the money is generated. And unfortunately, there's going to be some teams on the outside. But I think that's going to be an incredibly competitive, level 2 to college football. I really do. It's just a matter of when that's going to break down and when that's going to happen. But I think it's inevitable.
Ryan, I want to tell you this. We've had you on at Super Bowls and other times before. But proud as hell of what you're doing, man. Really are. Proud of your broadcast career. Proud of what the message you share. And a lot of people were excited about the fact when I was able to confirm you'll be a part of the show. So keep it up, and hope we'll see you in Waco here pretty soon.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. I really thank you. And I love it. And the Baylor Bears fans, you're right. They were extremely gracious and it was very flattering and humbling to be able to know that, when I call a game, I'm doing a good job. I mean, that's all I want to do. I want to do the best possible game I can. I want to be knowledgeable. When I talk about a certain player and I know their parents are going to be listening, I want to do them justice and do it right and say their name. All the things that go into it that I like to perfect when I was a player is exactly the same mindset I take when I go into trying to call in a game as a color analyst. So I appreciate that a lot.
Thank you very much. That's Ryan Leaf, ESPN color analyst. We've had him on before to discuss his life and journey, and also now I'm telling you, a lot of you reached out on Twitter, direct messages, text messages, on the boards, excited to be able to get him on the show, and I appreciate he responded as quickly as he did to do that as well.
Yeah, I just hate that we can't ask him a bunch more questions. Is Clemson really, this down, or I want to ask him about everybody, so I threw the Pac-12 in knowing that's his background. But yeah, I could go over 25 different storylines coming out of this weekend with him.
Well, we'll get him again.
Oh yeah,
he's a guy on the rise. He is certainly one of the better analysts that ESPN has right now. And first of all, when he mentioned I'm going to call people I respect like Joel Klatt, if you're going to take that path, Joel Klatt is, in my opinion, the best college football analyst there is on TV, and Ryan is heading that way. I mean, he's really done a great job, and I really enjoy listening to games that he does.
I couldn't help but think when you brought up the way college football is now, there's a big example of a guy that would have made a ton of money, name, image, likeness. I mean, would have made a ton of money during that big year with it was him and Peyton Manning neck and neck for the number 1 draft pick. Would have made massive amounts up there in Washington. So, that's kind of, the game's changing and all that, but there's a guy who would be eating very good right now, and I'm sure he still did. It's just the way it was under wraps, but, it could have been a lot more open about it these days.
When we come back, David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com, will join us here momentarily. Huge win for the Cowboys. They would have been 0-2. Philadelphia coming up, and I'm still kind of trying to find out on the I understand the in the grass, but you really don't hear much of that anymore on the Herbert pass that was incomplete. that ended up being an 18, 19-yard sack. Great play by Micah Parsons, by the way. It was great to see him. That pick right there may have won you a game. But the taunting penalties in the NFL, these are grown-ass men playing each other. It's one thing to slam your face mask into another guy. It's one. Come on.
Hey, so the point of the sport is to stop you from scoring, I'm going to hit you as hard as I can.
I'm trying to separate bones from parts of your body.
I'm trying to knock the ball out of your hands by hitting you, but words hurt.
Yes, or actions. Now, in college football or high school football, I can see a little bit of that. What?
I just don't understand why.
Yeah, I know.
I don't understand why they feel the need to dumb it down and make it more vanilla. Is there such a is there such a loud voice somewhere from some part of the NFL fan base that we're just not aware of that holds so much stroke that they want to see the game like it was played in 1945? I know those people exist, but I mean, shoot, man, it's been a long time. It's a much different world, and why they are trying to tone down celebrations and just having fun and talking a little S, I don't know. There's stuff that needs to be flagged, obviously, but they're getting so ticky-tack and vanilla with it that I don't know what benefit they think it brings because it just makes everything less fun.
Yeah. Well, if you went to an ice cream parlor that had, let's just use Baskin-Robbins, they're 31 flavors. What if you went there all of a sudden and they said, listen, we are going to one flavor. That's what we're doing. And then you're like, well, who wanted this?
But you're not then who you are. You're not
exactly.
Baskin-Robbins.
Nobody asked. They're like, no. There's people that don't like the other 30.
Yesterday's game, the Cowboys and Chargers both committed penalties. But when you start to do the ticky-tack stuff, and then on top of that, you then do whatever this is with taunting, and then on top of that, it's just it's hard enough to officiate the NFL. Those guys have an impossible job, but they get paid a lot of money for it. I just thought that game, one of the storylines, instead of great players, and a great game, it became kind of just the penalty. It was 20-plus penalties. That's way too many. It's not like the Raiders back in the day when they played the Steelers and they killed each other in the play and after the play. We'll get to that with David Helm and his thoughts about it. Here's a picture. Scott Drew just posted this on his timeline. When you produce 3 tight ends, NFL scouts come to practice. And there's a picture of a Raiders scout in the gym.
He's just wondering who they have next?
I guess
yeah, so, you must have tight ends coming up. Okay, who among the players they have, because Vital, Rico, and Ish Wainwright, right?
Yeah.
Who, do they have a power forward type that would be a tight end?
Just imagining Matthew Myers' goofy butt running football routes.
And Jonathan Shamachachi was just tall and angular.
His knees would get hit off.
No. Who?
I don't
think
know that
they
there is
have
a guy
one
right now.
And it wouldn't be Flo Thamba, but it's a compliment because the Raiders, a scout watching Baylor practice and maybe just kind of watching how they do what they do.
That's true. I mean, but why not? I mean, the Raiders could, be on the cusp of something, finding a hidden gem here in the next few years as a result of that visit. I mean, if he's in the area, I definitely would have made it a point to come to Waco, just to talk to Scott Drew. Maybe he's talking to Dave Aranda as well about Terrell Bernard and, Jalen Petrie and those guys. But fact of the matter is, you can say whatever you want to. The fact that they put 3 basketball players, like full-on basketball players, not like dual scholarships real just basketball players, and landed them on NFL teams with little to no experience is freaking weird, man. Like, I don't get why it's happened, but it's an amazing thing that has happened, and I don't know how they keep it up, but, I mean, shoot, Rico was on the Cowboys a lot longer than anybody expected, and obviously was a little bit too worried about his rap career, probably more so than his football career. You had Ish Wainwright dabble as well, and we'll see with Mark Vital what ends up happening with him. But it's pretty crazy that they've all 3 had those opportunities.
And I would not look. Mark Vital has a work ethic to where I have a feeling that if the NFL teams told him this is the 10 things you need to do, he'll go check them off one by one. So yeah, he's gonna get there, or you'll know that it just wasn't going to happen because he's going to exhaust all the possibilities.
David Hellman is next, and again, we will hope you enjoyed the Ryan Leaf. We'll have him on. I think we're going to have Ryan on a handful of times this year. Brock Heward, who does the game this Saturday for Iowa State and Baylor, will join us. It appears on Saturday. JJ Joe just checked in. He's there tomorrow. We've got Memphis and Wisconsin and others, Fresno, that we're going to drop in with this week as well. David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com, is next on Sikkim 365 Radio. Ram Power Day is going on. Ted Teague listens to us all of the time. Text during the show. He's the one that kind of gave me the little nugget about Mark Vidal and Kansas City. And, of course, Mark was in town with the players, a couple of weeks ago when they got their Big 12 championship ring. Speaking of that, Ram Power Days are going on at Allen Samuels with new 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Stars with total values, $7,000 or 2.9% for 72 months. The 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab, the Quad Crew Cab, style, dependability for any job. Power Days going on right now during the month at Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. There's this new 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee L, now in stock, beautifully rugged, third-row seating, carries the prestigious Jeep Heritage, and right now that's part of the Jeep Adventure Days. And then, on top of that, the Grand Cherokee Laredo, Jeep 2021, the most awarded SUV ever, total values for $3,250, beautiful design, elegant style, Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo at Allen Samuels right now on Loop 340 east of 84. And finally, this is the great kicker. The quality study was done by J.D. Powers and Associates. The 2021 Ram brand received first place in the prestigious J.D. Powers initial quality study. Dodge brand finished second to Ram. The 2021 Jeep Gladiator among the best mid-sized trucks. Quality, Ram, Buick, Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
At Baylor University, students can shine in their own way. Or should we say their own ways? Because there's no limit to the ways Baylor students make the world a brighter place. Whether they're leading a student organization or following a higher calling, getting advice from faculty, or taking part in world-class research, pursuing their dreams, or working toward their dream job, students find their place to shine at Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, or get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish by 6 on Wednesday. Pick up on Friday afternoon after 2 or Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish available right now for $4.25 a pound. Find all the crawfish boil ingredients you need, including red beef potatoes, sausage, corn cobettes, and Louisiana boil seasoning. Make your order for live crawfish by Wednesday at 6. Pick up on Friday after 2 or all day Saturday, and enjoy the weekend. Waco Custom Marketplace, your home for fresh baked kolache, cinnamon rolls every day. Butcher shop to cut your steaks the way you want. Fresh seafood, summer sausage, boudin, house cured and smoked bacon, spices, seasonings, soup mixes, and more, and weekly gift boxes for any occasion. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com. At At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of health care while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of health care has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
First and goal. He's found 5 different targets. He's going to hand it off. It's Pollard, and he's across for the Dallas touchdown.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of DallasCowboys.com.
All right, what a win for the Cowboys in L.A. It was a dramatic ebbs and flows, a game that had massive plays, big plays, of course, turnovers as well. And then you look up at the end, and it's 17-17 or 14-14 at one point with all of the 10-yard plays. I tell you what, David, that was fun to watch. It really was. It was a great game to watch. Obviously, it's even better if you're a Cowboys fan or a player when you win the game. What was it about Micah Parsons? They had to do that because of the defensive ends, the injuries, and Gregory being out. Is that something he could do more often?
It damn sure better be after what we saw yesterday. Yeah, I mean, you know, look, I got to be honest. I didn't expect him to do that much of it yesterday, but that's what made him valuable enough to draft 12th overall. That was the narrative all through the draft process, was that an off-ball linebacker is not worth a top 12 pick unless he's going to do some stuff like that to contribute to your pass rush and disrupt the passing game. And that's exactly what he did. I mean, it's worth noting that he was going against the backup tackle. Brian Bulaga missed that game. But for him to go in there on basically no notice and get 39 snaps rushing the passer and do such an amazing job of it, I mean, it was incredible. And I think it's just a glimpse of how much talent he has and how the Cowboys might be able to harness it to improve his defense.
David, you mentioned last week adaptive offense, and that was certainly what we saw. We have not seen the exact same game plan 2 weeks in a row. The Cowboys ran the ball. They ran a lot with Tony Pollard. He had a fantastic game, and they didn't try to win the game by throwing the ball 60 times. You kind of nailed it last week, but it was impressive to see Kellen Moore shift into something that he knew would work better.
I think it's absolutely wonderful. You know, for so many years, Jason Garrett's mantra was kind of, we know our strengths and we're going to play to them and we're going to do what we do to win games. And I just think it's an antiquated way of thinking. What you should be trying to do is maximize your talent on offense to take advantage of what that defense is offering you. And Kellen actually just talked to the media a little while ago and classified it as aggressively taking what you're given, which is to say, you know, you're still going to take shots. You're still going to try to push the ball downfield and score points. But going back to last week, why bash your head against the wall against an amazing run defense? Well, this week you're presented with a lot of too high looks. The Chargers purposefully keep a light box because they're trying to take big passing plays out of the game. And the Cowboys said, yeah, that's awesome. We'll run for 200 yards instead. I mean, there's no one way to do this thing. And I think that's a really encouraging sign that Kellen Moore seems to have such a good grasp of that.
How good is it to see what Trayvon Diggs is doing as well, David?
Looks like a Pro Bowler, man. I mean, I talked about this on one of our podcasts today. I was kind of reluctant to crown him during training camp because, you know, you get into these bubbles where you watch guys and you're like, all right, is he really that good, or am I just watching him every day and maybe I need to see him go against some other competition? Well, it doesn't get much tougher to start a season out than Mike Evans followed by Keenan Allen. And not only has he done a fantastic job in coverage, but he's also taking the ball away. I mean, we're used to seeing, you know, the leader on the Dallas defense in interceptions most years over the last decade has had 2 or 3 on the year. Well, Trayvon's got 2 after 2 games. So yeah, I mean, if he keeps this up, he's on an awfully impressive trajectory.
Yeah, and just, I know Philadelphia's next, and that's obviously they focus in on that, but no matter what, just the statistics, no matter if the NFC East can be a mess, 0-2 is 0-2. Doesn't mean you can't come out of that hole, but 0-2 is 0-2, and especially with the possibility there might be more attrition just because it's football. Can you put a number without overrating how important that might have been yesterday?
I don't know how to put a number on it, but I think you're absolutely right. And even, I mean, if you want to look at it even in a glass half empty kind of way, you can look at it now and say, all right, you know, even if we lose to Philadelphia, that's not the end of the world. We're 1 game below 500. All it takes is 1 good game to climb back out of that hole. Now, obviously, if you want to be a good team, you've got to start stacking consecutive wins at some point. But I mean, the thought of being 1-2 versus 0-3, I mean, just think about how absolutely massive that is. And it's the same way as 0-2 versus 1-1. It keeps you alive to the sense of, you know, you don't have to climb out of a hole before you can start stacking things together. So I'm curious to see how this goes because they got 3 straight home games and they've got 4 straight games against teams where you think they would be favored. You know, even the road trip to New England, it's not Tom Brady up there anymore. It's a rookie quarterback. I know Bill Belichick's amazing, but that's just not as daunting of a task as it's been for the last 20 or so years. So no idea if they're going to win all of them, but if they are as good as people hope they are, this is a big opportunity for them. You know, they kind of weathered this storm, 2 road games against 2 good teams, and now they've got a chance to make some hay.
David, I am curious your thoughts on the explanation by Mike McCarthy on the time management at the end of the game. For a second there watching on TV, I thought, is he playing for a 56-yard field goal or what is going on here? And he said the clock was blocked, but isn't there somebody telling him, like, hey, you better hurry up in his headset? Yeah, I mean, from the sounds of it, it was just an absolute cluster F on a variety of levels. You know, the clock McCarthy was looking at went out, which I've had people that were on the field verify that for me. It did happen. But even still, in a modern stadium with all these LED boards, you'd think there's probably 80 ways to look at the clock by now, which ironically, so then that happens to Kellen Moore. Kellen was just telling us, one of the sideline camera operators, the guys in the little go-karts that drive up and down the sideline, he drove in front of Kellen's clock. So now Kellen can't see that. So Kellen and Mike are talking to the box about what's happening. And while all this is happening, Tony Pollard got some confusion about who was supposed to be on the field. So now Tony's all the way over outside the numbers, way away from the huddle. So by the time he's going to get back out there, you're going to be below 20 or so seconds. And now it's starting to get dicey about whether you've got enough time to run a play. And they ultimately, you know, once they got under 17 or 16 seconds, they were like, let's not push our luck. We're inside Zerline's range. Let's just go for the field goal. So they didn't do it on purpose. But it's a comedy of errors that it got to that point. Obviously, nobody's going to harp too much on it because they won the game. But, you know, that's really disconcerting. Hopefully you think they'd spend some extra time on that moving forward so stuff like that doesn't happen anymore.
What was your level of confidence he's lined up for that kick?
You know, it's never a given.
Right.
But I didn't think it was hopeless. You know, I watched him. Ironically, I watched Zerline all through pregame, and he did like 8 kicks on each side of the field, and he made one from 58 going the other way. And I was like, okay, he's definitely got the range to make this. But I guess what I didn't see maybe I was eating lunch or talking to somebody in the press box, but apparently he missed from that range going the other way twice during pregame. So plenty of reason for concern, but for whatever reason, I didn't see it. So I was like, yeah, he made this in pregame. He should be fine.
Yeah, I saw this note, David. You know how we hear that young quarterbacks are playing earlier perhaps than ever? I saw this note of the NFL sends out these notes, and I was going to ask you about this. 6 rookie quarterbacks have already attempted a pass this season. There's more younger quarterbacks playing what appears to be earlier than ever, but it's the most since the last time was 1971 that 6 rookie quarterbacks have attempted a pass in their first 2 weeks of the season since 1971. Would you have thought that was a bigger number?
Probably not, just because, I mean, if you think about it, in any given year, there's usually only 3 or 4 quarterbacks worth taking in the first round. And even then, one of those guys is probably going to be drafted toward the later end of the round where it's a better team drafting him and they've got some time to be a little more patient. So, like, in a given year, you're only usually ever getting, like, 1 or 2 guys who are the man from day one, So, I mean, it's not really what's more surprising to me is that in 1971, 6 rookie quarterbacks played. I mean, that was back in the day when a team held your rights forever and a rookie could sit for like 5 years and it wouldn't be a big deal. Which I think it's a fascinating conversation, the way the league has evolved. I mean, obviously quarterbacks are better prepared than they ever have been because of how much they're playing these days. There's way more impetus to get them on the field because of the cheap contracts and, how much it can help your salary cap having a young quarterback playing at a high level. So, I mean, it's a really interesting conversation, but I'm not surprised. And then you factor in the injuries that have gotten some of these other rookies on the field.
Mm-hmm.
It's not super crazy to me. What's really interesting to me is that in 1971, 6 rookies were playing. I would have never guessed that.
No, I wouldn't have either, but that's the case. That's crazy. And those quarterback injuries, now the Cowboys have one of the healthiest quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, which going back to my point, and nothing's a given in the NFL. I get that. We were laughing today that this, Tampa and LA looked like these big bad games, and you kind of thought of Carolina as more of an easy game, and now Carolina's off to a 2-0 start. They just kicked New Orleans butt. So you never know anything for sure, but the Cowboys have the better quarterback in their next 6 games. I'm very confident of that. And if you've got the better quarterback, you've got a great chance to win. So that goes back to the point of you kind of weathered this 2-week storm. And now if they're good, they've got a chance to really build some momentum, I think.
Why are they using the taunting call? Whose feelings are hurt here?
I can't stand it.
Killing me, man.
I hate it a lot.
I'm giving the NFL a chance. Last year I didn't watch much of it and didn't really watch. The last couple of years it's been fading for me. I know it's an incredible league and I know it's a popular, massive league. But I'm watching. The primetime games have all been amazing. That Cowboys-Chargers game was amazing. But it's just it's killing me that they're doing that. I don't know if they'll change it because they're so damn stubborn, but it makes no sense to me at all. What did you say?
Well, hopefully,
go ahead. Yeah.
I agree with you. The league's way too stubborn to change the rule, but we've seen this before where they overcall things in the early going of a season to set a precedent and then kind of relax on it. I'm hoping that's the case because it's so stupid. And I mean, I know the players don't care. To me, it's just crusty old ownership, not understanding a new generation, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, these guys literally put their health on the line and have no job security. And to ask them to play the game without emotion, I think it's just silly. I think it detracts from the quality. I love when Tyreek Hill throws a peace sign up at a guy when he's going to the house. I think it's fun. These guys make a lot of money. Their feelings will be fine. So
yeah,
hopefully the NFL comes to their senses a little bit.
I don't know if a lot of guys go over the sideline and they're, what's upset? He said a mean thing to me. I don't think that happens.
I think they'll be just fine.
If a guy slams, if he slams his face mask into another player's face mask,
that's a little different. Yeah.
Well, that's a personal foul, unsportsmanlike conduct. But somebody spinning the ball at the feet, Santana Moss used to do that all the time. And all right. Anything else? You got anything else? Hey, David, great stuff. Thank you, sir. Cowboys beat the Chargers. Philadelphia next. Thank you. How about this stat? Go ahead.
Philadelphia has Zach Ertz in the COVID protocol now, but he's vaccinated apparently. So based on NFL rules, he can be available for next Monday night, so long as he clears, all the hurdles. But I believe, if you're vaccinated, as long as you don't show symptoms for a couple of days, I believe it's like 48 hours or something like that, then he could still be made available. But something to watch for sure, because Philly without Zach Ertz, that's massive news if he's not available.
And especially given the offense they're running now with Ertz and Goddard, and it helps out Jalen Hurts so much. Now, that was a pretty defensive struggle yesterday.
Yeah, well.
Philly might be better than I think a lot of people thought they would be. I still think
Hurts might be better than a lot of people thought he would be.
Again, I'm never going to doubt a guy who after they beat Auburn by 21 points and I ask him what do you think? He's like, well, we got to work on next week already. Like, yeah, you've got Saban brain.
Yeah. A couple of quick notes. JaMychal Hasty played quite a bit again for San Francisco, but he did have an ankle injury. They're waiting to hear more on that. The former Baylor
on IR from what I've seen. Yeah.
Lamar Jackson. What a game last night that was, and what a ballsy thing from his head coach. He was yelling out to Lamar on the 4th and 1. You want to go for it? You want to go for it? And they did it. It could have backfired, but that was incredible.
He somehow got no taunting penalty for flipping into the end zone.
Which, good.
I'm fine with it, but it's just like, based on what I had seen earlier, I'm like, how is that not a penalty flag? But hey, whatever. Let him loose.
Yeah, Harbaugh yelled at Jackson, asked whether Baltimore should go for it at their own 43. I'm like, hell yeah. And I said it again, and he took the snaps and made it pretty easily.
Well, the Chiefs had not stopped them running the ball. So
here's another note. Tom Brady, greatest of all time. It's debatable. He's got the rings. He's got the stats.
I don't even think it is anymore.
How about this? Drew Brees is second in NFL history of throwing most touchdowns after the age of 40. Okay, count this up, Paul, 57.
Okay.
Brett Favre, 41.
Okay.
Warren Moon, 37. Vinny Testaverde with 24. Tom Brady has already thrown more touchdown passes after the age of 40 of all of them combined.
So that's like 144 or something like that, right?
He is on a roll in which he's going to throw 77 touchdown passes this year. We know that won't be. In his 20 year, when he was 20 to 29, he threw for 100 and he's thrown 154 touchdown passes in his 40s. How much was that overall that I added up?
Let's say 142, 144, something.
He's already thrown more than those four. Breeze will be a Hall of Famer. Favre is a Hall of Famer. Moon's a Hall of Famer, and Vinny won't be. He has thrown 167 touchdowns in his career when he was in his 20s. He has thrown 154, and he's 44 years old.
Well, and apparently last week he was saying he feels like he could play till 50.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
Well, he's not done.
The rules are set up that way.
Yeah,
now, again, they protect quarterbacks. And
he's actually 13 touchdowns away from throwing more touchdowns in his 40s than he did in his 20s, and that was a full decade. And he's just unbelievable. Threw 5 yesterday. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco. Gorgeous walk-in fridge, plus high-end bourbons. Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hoot and Young, and Bardstown. Bardstown is high end, and that's some good stuff there. Great customer service and a speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Escape the mundane with the responsive power and exhilarating agility of a new Cadillac from Richard Carr Cadillac. Smile behind the wheel again in the supercharged sophistication of a CT4 or CT5 sedan, or the sporty and spacious XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs. Starting at only $33,395, the Cadillac of your dreams is waiting now at an affordable price at Richard Carr. Test drive from the expansive selection at Richard Carr Cadillac, or let us bring a test drive to you. Go to richardcarcadillac.com to schedule a test drive today.
It's football season. Sports bettors and BetUS.com has your NFL and college football live betting lines up for their 27th year. Why BetUS.com? Well, they're the 3-decade leader, and you can join now for a 125% bonus on promo code SICK'EM125 with cash, or a 200% bonus on crypto with SICK'EM200. The 3-decade leader with action on every sport across the world. We can pretty much guarantee that they've got your game at BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Brought to you by Champion Salon and Barber. You like this right here? Right there, Champion Salon and Barber. Fantastic what they do. 2 locations here in Waco. Look them up. Great things to do. They do unbelievable. Like, they convinced me to grow a beard and then have kept it looking pretty sharp. So nice. There you go. Champion Salon and Barber. There's one just a stone's throw from our studio right here in downtown Waco. All right, top 5 things that teams need to work on. And by teams, this is a broad thing. Number 5, the refs in the Penn State-Auburn game, counting to 4. They need to work on that.
Remember Colorado?
Oh, yeah.
And Missouri in
fifth down, right?
Is it 89?
Yeah.
89 or 90?
Yeah.
I think it's 89, maybe 89 or 90.
This is what is upsetting about replay. Now, part of the problem with replay, and a lot of people don't know this, is that most of the replay officials are old officials who cannot move around on the field anymore. Well, sometimes, and I don't mean to cast aspersions on the elderly people because I hope I'll be elderly one day, but if you can't run, you also don't see all that well anymore either, so there are problems with that. And I'm not trying to be ageistic here, but
yeah, you are. You're picking on us old people.
No, but I'm just saying that that's a bit of an issue. But here's the problem with replay on both levels of college and pro football is that they've not figured out how to use it perfectly when everyone in the world watching can know what's going on. And this was easy. Rewind the tape, count the downs. And they still got it wrong.
Okay, how many officials are there? I don't even know. 5, 7, 8, whatever in a big boy game. You have that. You have the guy who's doing the yard markers. You have the guy that has the down and distance. You have coaches on your staff. It's hard to imagine that happened, but that happened a long time ago, and it's happened here 30 years later.
Yeah, at least there wasn't a national championship riding on it,
No, and it was, and I know Missouri fans are still dying over that, and Colorado fans, hey, it's part of the deal.
As Paul said, there are a lot of older refs or whatever. I don't give a damn how old you are. I don't care how bad your eyesight is. There are no excuses to mess that call up. There are zero excuses. I don't care if you've been doing it for 50. Whoops, my bad. No, there ain't no my bad, brother. This is a game that there's a lot riding on. This is your job today. I don't care that you mow lawns 6 other days a week and whatever. No, there are no chalking up mistakes here, especially when it can be corrected.
I don't think they're mowing lawns, but I understand what you're saying.
In line and make the right call, because that very well could have cost them a game that launches them into a whole nother type of season versus if they lose that game and it turns out an entirely different way.
Thank God it didn't cost them.
But thank God it didn't cost them. But there's no excuse for that. I can human error and all that stuff. I don't want it to be all computers and everything like that. But we've been doing this long enough now with enough technology. There are no more excuses for officials outside of just
other than the speed of the game.
Yeah, other than debating
the judgment call.
That's a fact. Exactly. Yeah. Other than a judgment call, which is different for. This is a rule. There are 3 downs, 4 downs. That's inexcusable. Yeah. I don't care what the excuses are.
Number 4, Clemson. Their offense is.
Their offensive line's a mess, and it's hard to imagine. You look at all the bells and whistles. They've been so amazing. Their slowest start offensively, I think, since 2014, and they may have been in the playoff that year too. But they do look look anemic.
They're staring down Georgia Tech in the red zone, actually inside the 10-yard line at the end of the game with a chance to lose a game to Georgia Tech, who might be improving, but you have no business losing to if you're Clemson.
But because their only loss is Georgia. And because I know the conference they're in is very weak right now, if they somehow manage, because of their overall talent level, what happens at the end of the year if they have 1 loss, and that's to Georgia?
They're still in the playoff.
The beauty pageant would still, yes.
It would be like Jeff Long, who would say, game control.
Yeah.
Game control is why they should be ready. Or no, time zones.
Yeah.
They had to travel 3. Those were actual excuses made for their rankings in year number 1, was game control and time zones.
Yeah, or how they look coming off the bus. All right.
All right. Number 3, Florida, and they got bailed out in this, but special teams, kick returner after an Alabama touchdown, their offense bailed them out of this on an epic 99-yard drive. But Fair goes to Fair catch the ball. It bounces off his hands. It bounces in the end zone and out to the 1-yard line. And then he did this.
The hell with it.
Dan Mullen was going to eat his liver. It was, oh, man. But Emory Jones in the offense bailed him out, and that's actually what started Florida's rally, was that actual play. But got to get that taken care of.
Alabama's defense got tired because they're on the field a lot. They were giving up a lot, not a bunch of passes, but rushing yardage. They got tired.
Yeah. Number 2, Ohio State. That defense, I'm going to keep harping on it. It was not great. They won 40-21 over Tulsa. They should do that. Tulsa, by the way, has covered, I think, 12 or 13 times in a row against top 10 opponents.
Really?
They've had a hell of a hard time to the season to start off with. They're 0-4 now, but they played.
Had a hell of a year last year, too.
They have. But Ohio State, they've got flaws, man. And, this is what they've got. There's no transfer portal magic coming their way. It is what it is. And I'm sure we'll see them mix some things up to try to find that spark, but it is a concern.
Matt Barnes became the play caller.
Yeah.
He went down to the field. Kerry Combs, who was the defensive coordinator, who's not making just a couple $100,000 a year, he went back to the booth.
Yep.
They still had some issues, but they're kind of, that's Ryan Day's not waiting around.
Do you remember, I think I might have brought that up in Off the Radar or something like that, where they were looking at the possibility of making a change. And, they did make a change last week, so we'll see how that goes.
At number 1, Florida State. Everything.
Oh, man.
They need to work on every single thing.
We sure talk about a team that is struggling a lot.
Just had to
but
get
I'm
that
the one that
shot
brought
in.
up the girl on campus
I had to
saying
get that shot in.
Jack, do you still have? I know it's late. But you still have
also,
that?
we can talk about Nebraska more if you want.
And it
Smokey.
goes. But it goes into, if you watched any of the game, Mike Norvell's body language is troubling in that he might know that he's bitten off more than he can chew.
Well, yeah, no, I hate it for them. I do. I really do. This is how FSU is going to turn around their football season. We open with this: young women in Tallahassee, please stop having sex with FSU football players when they approach you. Act like you don't know who they are. When they tell you they play for FSU, ask them if they play basketball. And when they say football, say, ooh, and walk away. I bet we see a change. That's from Smooch.
So if Smooch and friends actually followed up on this, the worst year ever at Florida State's has gotten even worse because there's nothing to look forward to.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they are not very good. I don't know how Norvell turns this thing around. What do you do? I've seen people, well, hire this coordinator or that coordinator. Like, I don't think that matters much.
It's a bigger problem than that.
I agree. I agree totally. And they're in a bad way, man.
All right, they are. And Nebraska football, I thought, would get smoked. I thought they at least showed something. The problem is they'll turn around and lose in East Lansing to Michigan State, and they're headed for another year without a bowl game 5 in a row. But they played. I thought I liked what I saw. The problem is they're still a dumb football team. Jack McKenzie, great stuff today. Paul Catalina, great stuff with the top 5 that ended up. Thanks to Craig Smoak. Thanks to all of you on the text line, the chat room, the phone calls, and more.
I want to talk a bunch more college football tomorrow.
And we will.
So
I got a bunch. By the way, the Baylor-Oklahoma State game, not this weekend, but the next weekend at Stillwater's a 6 o'clock start. We mentioned that. The game this week is 2:30 with Fox. I'm David Smoak. Good night, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots.